Thank you kindly.
Baba Maponga, thank you so much for blessing us with your presence. We are all your children here on this app right now, and we are here to listen to our elder, the one who is wiser than all of us around. And yeah, we are here to get information. Of course, yes. Wow.
Of course.
Makhosi thokozani. Guys,
wow. The older I'm getting, it's like this thing is finally settling in, that actually this Mkhulu business is no longer a joke, you know.
It's not.
The other day, my brother's son, you know, had a son. So I'm officially actually grandfather now. I'm officially grandfather. Like,
congratulations.
So it's no longer a joke now, this Mkhulu business. It is now a
Indeed, I
reality.
see. Yeah.
I wish to make it very easy and conversational.
Okay.
We can do lectures that are high research and complex, but I think many of us, we wish to learn about African culture. But I want to tell you, stop learning African culture. Practice it. Practice. Yeah. Our culture is not a library where you're going to flip through pages, memorizing Kemet, you know, reading about. Yes, reading is important.
Yeah.
But take off your shoes, you know, play the drum, drink the water, you know, experience the language, experience the culture, and live with it. And for this afternoon, I want to do something very simple, and I will work with Toya here, who is my partner in crime. Now, show me your hands. Show me your hands like this. Just your hands. Yeah, Mitchell, you can do that also. Show me your hands. Yes. There you have how many fingers on your left? One of you can open up your mic, then me and you, we can talk, and everyone else can have fun. How many fingers on the left?
There's 5.
And how many on the right?
There's 5.
So we are going to drop the 2 thumbs. You drop the 2 thumbs and remain with the 4. All right? Then it means that it takes 4 people to produce 1 person. Okay? So you need your grandmother. If that's your mother, for example, you needed 1, 1, 1, 1 to produce 1. So you need 4 to produce 1. That becomes your mother's side on your left. And you need another 4 to produce 1. That becomes your father's side. Now, when you put those fingers together, boom, that creates the first diamond, which is actually the female genitalia, the door through which we come into this life. Therefore, when we understand our history, it's actually putting together our ancestral line. So who is from my mother, who are the 4 on my mother's side, who are the 4 on my father's side. Yeah. So the 4 this side and the 4 this side, they come together to form the 2. And when the 2 meet, there is the door through which you come into this life. Therefore, when it comes to issues of sex, for example, let me start off with women. When you allow a man to enter, he must be prepared to go and greet all these ancestors who are your background, who are trapped inside you. They are lying in the grave, but they live in your DNA. They live in your blood. Many people will talk about witchcraft and other things. I'm not yet there. Some of you are too young for us to discuss those things. But you are an embodiment of your history. You are an embodiment of your ancestral line, your eyes, your nose, your hairline, your toes, your body weight, for example, your shape of your teeth. There's nothing that you can say I am, except that someone in your past actually looked like you, and they all collected their DNAs and put them together, and there you are as an evidence that they lived. So if you want to look at your ancestors, look at yourself. Look at yourself, and you can see the past which you are scared of. And therefore, you don't live your life only for yourself. You live your life for continuity. because you are a full embodiment. That's why in Zulu, as Toya was saying, we don't greet in singular, we greet in plural. Sawubona. You know, we are aware that you are not alone. There are others that are with you, that are within you, that are around you. The fact that we cannot see them, you're not here by accident. You have a history of connectivity to other people that are within you. Makadini, if it is in Shona, it's plural. Every time you're addressing an adult, actually, you cannot address them in singular. You address them in plural, because then you understand that it's not about individuality, but plurality. I can tap in a little bit there. Therefore, when it comes to many people trying to start up their spiritual lives as Africans, the first bus stop for me is your history, your identity. A person who does not know themselves can never say the truth. Hashtag that. If you don't know your identity, you can't say the truth. Because tomorrow morning you're going to be saying, I'm a Christian. Because you don't know your history. And then I say, if the Chinese had colonized you, what were you going to be? If the Arabs had colonized you, what were you going to be? Go to Tanzania, go to Egypt, go to Sudan, go to Libya, that were colonized by the Arabs. Are they not Muslims? And because we're colonized by a white man from Britain, then you run around, I am a Christian. No, listen carefully. If you don't know your identity, you can never say the truth. Because you're going to say, I'm a Christian, and I ask you, which part of you is Christian? Is it not a colonial system that colonized you? Now you call yourself a Christian. Ooh. Are you a Christian, or you are colonized and you've taken the religion of your master to become your religion? And there's no way that the God of the master and the God of the slave can be the same. Absolutely. First bus stop. First bus stop. And while you're on that again, you need to start appreciating the fact that your identity gives you purpose. When you know who you are, then you know what you must do. If you don't know who you are, you have no reason of doing anything. Because then we understand whether you are a poet, you are a wise person, you are a healing person, you are a king, you are a princess, you are a what. When you know who you are, then it automatically translates into purpose. Many people are looking for purpose in careers. Unfortunately, those are miserable lives, because even after graduating and working, you still walk back home empty and as lonely. You have never heard of a CEO, a CFO with 6 figures on their salaries, and they're still committing suicide. And you wonder then why? What a waste of resources, time, place, and etc. And then you fully begin to understand that life is not about resources and gathering money. A satisfied person has a better quality life than a highly resourced person. Your identity will give you purpose. When you know your identity and you know your purpose, Michelle, the next bus stop is, where are you? How far are you from your purpose? How far are you from your destiny? You're heading for your 30s, you're heading for your 40s, and you're still looking for the reason as to why are you in existence. And time is moving. It's not waiting for you. And then you discover that you have wasted all this time learning and studying everything else that is outside you. There's one thing you have not studied. It's yourself. Because you remain a library of mystery. In closing, the brain is the smallest part of the brain. You will giggle when I say that. The brain is the smallest part of the brain. Because every cell in the human body is a fully functional brain. From your skin to your tummy to your livers. When you put stuff that is wrong there, those things kick it out. You puke, every part of your body is a functional, independent university. We send signals once in a while to the head office, but your skin can listen. Your body remembers. Your cells remember far much more than what your brain can remember. If all the information in your cells can be moved into your brain, you may lose your brain. You can't contain it. It's too much information. Now listen to me carefully. When your body is conscious, like now, you are conscious. Spiritually, you are unconscious. Doesn't mean not available, but unconscious. When your body becomes unconscious, when you sleep, your spirit becomes conscious. So yes, I'm building on what Toya was saying. The first level is the physical level, which is the body level right now, where we can be talking and we are hearing each other. We can see, we can smell, we can touch it, etc., which is the conscious side. But while we are awake and active, our spirituality is unconscious. At the moment when you put your body at rest, then the spiritual side becomes conscious. That's when you're able now to travel unlimited. You can go to London in your dreams. You can go to California and come back via Rome. You know, you can walk underwater. You can fly in the sky. You can touch snakes. You can go to hell and back. Some have gone to heaven and back. I don't know. But when you are in that space, you are not limited. Unfortunately, because of our diet and poor management of our bodies, many people go to bed and they wake up in the morning. They don't even remember what happened in the night. But those experiences and good diet, it's another life that you must experience. Remembering that the day is 12 days light, 12 hours light, 12 hours night. And so you must enjoy and experience also your unconscious, conscious environment, which is your dream world. And by the way, in your dream space, you can go to the future. You didn't hear me. In that space, you can go to the past. You didn't hear me. In that space, you can go to the present. You are unlimited, Michelle. You are unlimited. When they shoot you with bullets, you become matrix. You know, they can't kill you. They can't touch you there. You know, you are something. It's a space which calibrates and recalibrates the conscious mind to put you in a space of unlimitedness. Powerful unlimited resources that are trapped inside you. You dream palaces and houses. And if you can dream it, you can make it. Come on. If you can dream it, you can make it. If you cannot feature in a future, you can't picture. You can hashtag me on that one. You cannot feature in a future, you can't picture. So your unconscious world allows you to picture the future. Then you wake up in the morning and you want to feature in that future because you've pictured it. Then we move into the spiritual realm so that we tell the conscious mind that you are not as primitive, as uneducated, as stupid, and remember, the library of a white man is in books, but the library of a black man is in the spirit. And if you can access the spiritual world, all the knowledge of history, of science is trapped right in there. Medicine, fashion. There's nothing that is beyond the reach of the African. Because of our melanin, we actually have access to the historical archives, which our books will never tell us and the white men will never tell you. All these vaccinations and drugs and foods and drinks that benumb our brains are intended solely to make our minds redundant to the consciousness, which we are. More water, more air, more vegetables, more connectivity unlocks the conscious mind into the unconscious consciousness. And you function not from the physical to the spiritual, but from the spiritual to the physical. You get instructions in the night. You activate them in the morning. That's why in Shona we say, Mangwa, Anani. Did you Mangwa, Mashoko? Nani is the god of the night. Did you speak to them in the night? Are you bringing us information in the morning? We're asking you what are the visions, and in the morning we don't start off by planning work. We start off by consolidating dreams. What did they say in the night? What did they say in the night? Then we connect all those dreams together. Then we know what our week looks like. We know what our month looks like. We know what our day looks like. Hey, ndarota, zakadai. I dreamt this. I saw this. Someone else, I dreamt this. I saw this. And we would sit around and begin to see the tapestry of the day, because the world of the conscious and the unconscious was just separated by with the night. Mangwa and Nani. What did Nani say? Did you bring us words from the spiritual space? Therefore, for us to begin our spiritual journey as young people, I give you some simple and small recommendation. Start with your ancestral lines, your family trees. Start where you are. Your father, your mother, who are they? Who are they? Who gave birth to them? Who gave birth to them? Then you can have what I call a compass. On the top side, when I go down like this, I'm representing the Shokos, the Mkanyas, the Vizjana. Wiramiti Ashoshe. That's my grandfather, my father's side. When I go back like that, I'm talking about the Mgonyamas, the Shumbas, the lions. That's my grandfather on my mother's side. When I put my head on the left, I'm talking about my grandmother on my mother's side, the Sisibas, the Ziva. Those are the Mbonambis, and the great lakes of the Mbedzis, the Vendors, Vanyai. And when I put my head on the right, that's my grandmother on my father's side. These are the Duves. These are the Manjanjanjas, the zebras, and etc. And there is your diamond. There you are. The men on the top, the women at the bottom, because they give us the door through which we come into this existence. So when you look into my heads and you see those diamonds, I don't have that head today. You begin to see those diamonds that are on my head. It is actually a historical, cultural, scientific, knowledge systems that we're preserving. But this one, for example, just as I'm about to close down, it's not just about culture. You can Google and learn how can you eat in color. What are yellow foods for? What are red foods for? What are blue foods for? What are etc. There are your 7 chakras right there in front of you, hidden in plain sight. Therefore, our culture and artifacts are a library. I wish you educated young people can stop studying their rubbish. Just start looking right here. Even if you're a theologian, look at the 7 colors. Look at the apron of Aaron. Look at the foundations of the city of God. Look at the stones. Look at it's all here. And our ancestors, they wrote it down. They drew it. They made it into art. They preserved it. Medicines also are right here. There are blue medicines, yellow medicines, red medicines. And without necessarily saying anything, the red medicines are for the blood. Hello, somebody? The blues and etc. are for the water issues. And the greens are for the diets and what. And right here. So when you walk around the bush and you see any of these colors in the trees and etc., before you can even worry about becoming a witch doctor, you already have the key in your hand. The red trees are good for blood. The greens are for this, the roots, the leaves, and what? Hidden in plain sight. Our food, our diet, our medicine is preserved in our cultural expression. With those few words, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.
Thank you so much. What's her name? Maisha Samba would say Mashoko Makuku too. So yeah, Mashoko Makuku to Maponga. Thank you so much for sharing all that with us. It means a lot. And yeah, you've definitely activated some thoughts or some ideas in the minds of the people who are listening. I can see hands are already up. But before I get to choose some other people, I'd like you to touch on something, Maponga. There's a time when I was sick and I was taken to the hospital and I was admitted. And I remember the first day or the first few hours when I got there, a doctor came to me and she asked me, Uguti, which type of medicine do you want us to give you? Do you want us to give you the Chinese traditional medicine? or the European or Western medicine? For me, that day was kind of an eye-opener, or it kept me thinking, ukuthi, so China, they've got universities for traditional medicine, whereby they study medicine for 6 years, traditional one, by the way, and then they go on to treat people in hospitals using that traditional medicine, and it works. But then if we are to look at how things are like in our continent, if a doctor was to ask me the same question, or was to ask any of us who are on this platform right now the same question, many of us wouldn't even think twice and say, maybe I could take the traditional one, because we are so westernized. So I'd like to know, Uti, what are your thoughts when it comes to this whole issue of us demonizing our traditional medicines, all because we think that being civilized means being Western? Yet China, we are here in China, I've been here for 6 years. They are way advanced technologically, but they still keep their culture. So where are we getting it wrong as Africans, and how can we correct that as well?
I'm glad actually you are raising that. And when some of you young people are beginning to travel, you open up windows of information to the stereotypes that are still in Africa. The project of colonization is deep. It's deep. The African child is messed up. I can't say the word. I wish I could have used the proper F word, but the African child is messed up in a big way, economically, spiritually, medically, fashionically, if there's a word like that, entertainment. The project was so holistic that it did not leave any form or trace of African left from land to. It's deep. We are all recovering addicts, by the way. We are all recovering addicts of colonization. I mean, I got hurt a few weeks ago, and I put him on some antibiotics for about a week or 2 weeks. Last week, Friday, almost 2.5 weeks later, I just said, enough of this is enough. I grew up in the village, by the way, and I went home, back to the village, and found a herb there that we used to use when we were heading cattle, you know, that cacti, but the small one that grows next to the rocks. Ended it up, crushed it up, looked for mhlawati, the one that is a paste that's actually using for sealing wounds, and mixed up my herbs, put it on my wound. I'm not joking, within 3 days. In 3 days, I could actually begin to see the wound shrinking in like that and working. Listen, I was born behind my grandmother's kitchen in the village. We must reach a time where we can ask, do you want to deliver in a white hospital and we cut your stomach out? Or do you want to deliver in the village and old women who know how to do midwifery can support you? And by the way, if you are willing to pay insurance money, X amount of money for poking you with injections and epidurals, you must also be prepared to pay an old lady in the bush who can equally do the task and deliver the child in a health condition. What is it that we are all about as African? We need to decolonize our medicine. We need to decolonize our politics. This whole democracy thing is fake, because behind democracy is the Queen of London. We are still subject of the Royal House of London. But in the front, we think that we're a democratic state. But paying allegiance to who? To the Queen. Hello, sir. Good morning, sir. All our forms. Are you a Mr.? Are you a Mrs.? Are you... hello? Hello, somebody. What am I missing here? What am I missing here? So at the end of the day, we may look like we're educated, but at the end, we are actually as slaves, as they say. We need to decolonize our politics, decolonize our medicine, decolonize our education. Stop teaching us William Shakespeare and Charles Dickens. They can go and hang in Hong Kong for all we care. Teach us more about ourselves. Decolonize our spirituality and religion. Decolonize our business and way in which we do our banking and etc. Decolonize. It's not true that you put your money in the bank, it grows. It doesn't grow. You'd rather buy a cow and the cow will give birth to another cow. That's what I call investment. Not waiting for 2%, 3% return on your investment. Why not getting 100%? So the whole ideology of African thought patterns, it is not punctuated and taught in the correct way. And at the end of the day, we become educated, but our education has moved us further and further away from ourselves. We've become slaves and servants of the system that educated us. So yes, the Chinese are already there. You can choose. Do you want to go Britain? Do you want to go Chinese? And with time, they'll be able to say, do you want to go Britain? Do you want to go Chinese? Do you want to go African? Because we have enough technologies, from childbirth to opening brains. We used to do surgeries of the brain. Then, Google it up.
Yeah.
Africans used to open up the cranium of a person with everything, anesthesia and everything else, and open up a brain and treat it and close it again. Way before. They cut up Batman in Europe. We're already doing brain surgeries in Africa. A woman would just put her hands in some herbs there and move her hands on top of a baby that has got a breach without even touching the womb, and the baby will dance and face the door to come out. What technology is that? And that's why they call it witchcraft. It was not witchcraft. They were asking, which craft are you using?
Yeah.
Which craft? Because it's a craft. So it's not witchcraft. Which craft? Which science?
Using. Wow. 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 That's deep. Toya, are you getting this? Wow, thank you so much, Maponga. That's deep. I think we'll need some days to digest this, right?
You can hashtag it for now, then you keep it on your. It's not witchcraft.
Which
it's not
craft are
witchcraft.
you
It's
using?
Witchcraft.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. I thank you so much for this. My question was answered. And I saw Glad Moore had a question as well. Thank you so much, Maponga, for that. We'll need days to really digest this. It's
And I hope it's not the last time we're meeting here on Africa Day once a year. We must do this regularly,
It's surely not.
Yeah,
Like
definitely.
especially for the African youth in China, I feel like there's a lot of work to do. Many people get to come here and start having so many questions after being exposed to other Africans and other people, or even the Chinese culture, for example, for some of us. The reason why the reason why I actually decided to follow African culture is my study of the Chinese culture. When you see people having a Qingming festival, for example, whereby they honor their ancestors, and where I come from, I'm told that ancestors are demons. I started saying there's a lot that we have in common, so we shouldn't be afraid to really, uphold or conserve our cultures as Africans. Chinese are doing it. They even have public holidays.
But have you not been embarrassed when you go to Africa and Africans are filled up in churches on a Sunday and the white people are in the graveyard cleaning their grandfathers' graves and
It's so
watering and
embarrassing.
sitting. There's a bench on some of them. They even have benches. They're sitting there and talking to their forefathers in the grave. Nina makolo abo Jesus, abo klepi. Nigcwele enkonzweni namemeza ke in the name of Jesus, name of Jesus.
Kunzima.
It's a shame. It's a shame.
Kunzima kakhulu shame.
Basithengisela lento bayibaleka futhi bayishiya, and they left us in the bush with something that is not working. It's not working. This Christian thing is not working. Right now, with Christianity, divorce rates are sitting at 70%, if not 80%, of all marriages are ending up in divorce. With Christianity, with our paganism, divorce rate was 0.5%. Are we becoming better?
No.
Nice.
Wow. Okay. Olendlebe magazwe. Those with ears may they hear. And I saw that Gladmore had his hand raised up. You may ask your question. After Gladmore, Mufasa will have to ask his question.
All right. Thanda unika inhlonipho Baba Maponga.
Mm.
I would like to comment on that thing, the 10-finger metaphor that you used. Can you hear me, you guys?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes,
Yeah, we can
the
hear you.
10-finger metaphor that you used about the family, I really liked it. And then you talked about also the plurality in greetings, where you say Mangwanani. That one was also a shocker, and I liked it. And then the last part on the witchcraft, that's so interesting as well. And I think we will use those terms as we go on, and even as we hashtag to some other people trying to explain who we are. Now, the guys that came with this system, you mentioned in your talk that our system, we are slaves of the system. The system was already created for us. We all grew up in a certain system, all we know, and we are trying to divert now from that system. Now, as far as I know, you have an organization like the Farmers of Thought that I also follow. Now, in that, I have a suggestion or something, because everything that we know, we are talking about decolonizing the brain. We are talking about changing our mentality. We are talking about, but we are in this world where information, because our Africanness, sometimes we cannot just tap into it like that. You see, some of us, even tracing back your roots, it will be very difficult, because you grew up in a society like now, where even your mother is okay without having being a single mother is being praised, and to say, no, I'm doing it in life. I am a single mother, and I've raised even great sons. But the society is broken already. So how can we have a new system that can decolonize this slavery system? Because even in our schools right now, I can tell you, kids, what they are learning is not even from our countries. Some of them here, I've learned that if you ask a taxi driver that you tell them your country, their geography is messed up. They don't even know. They'll tell you, I know my country only. They don't need to know anything. But we Africans, we need to know everything outside Africa, and we start to appreciate that, yet our own. Right now, if you can say, tell me your favorite music to someone who is here, you will find there is no African musician there, or maybe no musician from your country. It's just people that are secular. We are just secular people. So how can we reconcile this, like in schools, like in institutions? I followed you, you went to a school. Someone was saying, Maponga now has went into school. But I think we need to have a curriculum that can be designed for such kind of things, whereby an African curriculum, not just learning African traditions like what we did to say, the Shonas do this, the Ndebelés do this, they were colonized by this, and then they were did by this. That is the history that the whites want us to learn. There was war in this, and then there was what? We need that African history before the wars. That African history, how they did the medicine, how to tell this tree, how to do this, how to name kekules. Now we are giving names of kekule like inkomo ethiwa buffalo, inkomo ethiwa hayi. We had onhlavazi, ojolikazi, onkonekazi, obani bani. Children, they don't know this time. They will name a cow ukuthi ethiwa nguBenzi. Inkomo ethiwa nguBenzi kanjani? So how do we reconcile all these things?
I think I hear you loud and clear. And I want to call your comment as a national project. It cannot be done from one fraternity. The education department needs to come to the fore. The religious department needs to come forward. The government and the will in terms of investment in education, entertainment industry needs to come forward. Arts and culture needs to come forward. And all ministries and the entire community needs to start thinking towards how do we deconstruct. I am doing my job, by the way. Give me some kudos. I am doing a good job in the religious section. I'm doing my part.
Thank
I
you.
wish some of you guys also in your different spaces and your areas of specialty, you can also find out, now I've learned this kind of a science. How can I make this relevant? How can I maximize on my culture? How can I indigenize this? How can I contextualize this? So that you study their system in China, come back home and find indigeneity and indigenous ways of inculcating, whether it is medicine, it is technology, it is engineering, construction, it does not matter. But come back and say, now I know how to make a building stand. How can I use our ancient Ndebele ways of building houses and use that as a technology of creating new cities that are environmentally friendly and culturally alert, sort of thing? So for me, and many times, many of these people, young people that gather around me, then they want to come to me and fight with me on a religious platform. I said, hey, don't waste my time. I'm in my area of specialty. I trained in this field. I went to school. I read the Bible to and fro 10, 15, 20, 30 times, from Genesis to Revelation and Revelation to Genesis. I even read it backwards. Many of you have not done that. So you also go in your areas where you specialize. If it is communication, if it is arts, if it is accounting, if it is what, how can we create products and deliver services that are friendly and indigenously friendly to our community? I think that's where the DNA is, so that you all don't just focus at religion as the only thing that needs decolonization. Banking must be decolonized. Education must be decolonized. Entertainment must be decolonized. Fashion must be decolonized. Our women must stop feeling bad when they have their kinky African hair and they feel like they must put on wigs and stretching and paint their faces, swallowing tablets, trying to look lighter. We need even to decolonize the way we call beautiful things. We need to stop looking at the European way of small little slim girls. Man, I'm a beautiful people. I must be putting on size 28 and 29. Tina, Africa, we've extended public works projects. We have voluminous women. Must they feel bad because the narrative of a tinky winky thin little girl has become the depiction of beauty? It's not right. So the decolonization project for me cannot be limited only to religion. It's across the field, from even entertainment itself. How can you be an African? Me, I'm in Manchester United. Hey, me, I'm Chelsea. Hey, me, I'm Liverpool. Which part of you is Liverpool, for crying out loud? Are you so colonized you even spend $300-500 to buy a T-shirt of a team in London? That for the why? For the why?
Yeah, you are doing your part. And also, to conclude my submission, I also, last African Day that we did, there were some celebrations here in China 2018. I sent an article. They said, tell us about African food when you are saying we need to diversify our decolonization. I said, how can we say we have a 5-star hotel when you say there is food from all over the continent? That's why the standards of a hotel, they get to a 5-star level when there is no African food. You have got African dignitaries that come each and every time here, but there is no African food. So I was telling the Chinese media that to say, no, even in the food, culture, a traditional home in Africa, you get there, they do this is what they cook for you. It's a welcome meal. So why don't you do those kind of things when dignitaries are coming here? Also, you prepare some African things and what? In hotels and everywhere, where you can find something African in each and every aspect of life. For the Chinese,
is it not even funny? Is it not even funny that in African hotels you are being served an English breakfast?
Yeah, so we are trying to penetrate all the sectors, but I think it starts from the grassroots and people like you that have got chances to meet big people. I think these are projects that needs to be put in our curriculums. Our kids should start learning this, and you start to have a choice from a tender age. At kindergarten, here people, they are taught, some kids we teach here, small kids, they will tell you, oh, Aichongo, it means I love China. A small kid will be praising their country. They don't even know anything. They can forget whatever you taught them, but they will remember that I love China. And you ask, who is telling this kid to be repeating all these kind of things? So they are groomed from a small tender age. Some of the things that we want, if we are not teaching each other those things, we will continue wanting them. And if there is no proper strategy and there are no basics in anything, nothing will come to stand. So we need to strategize these things. We put them into pen and paper. We put them as policies, even of a country, of a nation, that Africans need this and this, because now we have got that power.
You must come back in China. You must come back. You must come back. Stop teaching China people. Come back. Call me on your way back. Let's do some of these things. I mean, I can hear your energy. Or maybe take my number from Sis Michelle, and we need to have this conversation outside of the group, and we can begin to look at ways how we can actually just move away from talking to starting to do and implement these things. The psychological brainwashing that happens in the children. This is what makes the political environment in Zimbabwe so toxic, because our children are being taught by another person. You cannot send your children to Rome, to Caesar rather, and expect them not to come back as Romans.
True. Thank you, sir.
Take my number, Chief. Let's talk. And I drink to that. I drink to that.
Thank you. Thank you. I will surely do that. Uzwile mse.
Ngizwile unsendele message
umnikeze inombolo yami sikhulume.
ngizamthumela. Siyabonga Baba Maponga. The next person to ask their questions is Mufasa, and then after Mufasa, I would like to have I don't know who else raised their hand.
Gladmore.
Gladmore, like he's done, and then there is Mpo, then Akoma. So for now, Mufasa, you may ask your questions, and then yeah.
Where is Mufasa here? I can't see him. Where is he?
All right.
Activate your video, sir. Let me also look in your face and see if there's any truth in there.
Oh, I'm actually using my PC, and I'll have to connect through my phone just in a minute.
That's fine. That's fine. Don't worry. I'm just pulling your legs, sir.
Okay, yeah.
Try and mute the other device, so we won't have feedback here.
All right. So my question was partially addressed by the previous speaker. So mine was more focused on decolonization in this modern world, where we are, the trends are moving to internationalization. So then through internationalization, how can we best preserve our culture? Also decolonizing. I'm trying to model my question, but it has already been addressed. So
I hear you. And I think it's a genuine question. It's how do we make it relevant? I've done a few presentations. You can go back on my pages there and you find them.
Yeah.
This whole global village story. The question is, in the route to globalization and creating of a global village, what will the African be in that global village?
Yes.
So if we don't start thinking in that direction, you may be shocked that when they are talking globalization, the African is still a slave in that village.
Yeah, true.
And there's nothing that we are taking with us into that international space. So if you are talking decolonization and our preservation of self, for me, that becomes critical, because the white man is able to preserve themselves. The Chinese is able to preserve themselves. The European is able to preserve themselves. Whether they become Christian or not, their Halloween is in place, their Easter is in place, their Christmas trees are in place, their entire culture is intact, their fashion is intact, their music is intact. Shame on us even as Christians, sometimes even celebrate country music and say this is gospel music. Africans, we need to preserve ourselves, and it must be holistic, as I said initially. It must be holistic intention that the decolonization project, and you in your own field of study, the question is, what changes? What when you are there in Europe and you are thinking about Africa, what is it that you can say, I want to adopt this and make it relevant in my own environment? And until we begin to have you educated young people as our transformers, I wish someone can just come back to Zimbabwe right now who knows how to fix and put a cell phone together. And we can start our own cell phone company. They are stealing fashion here. They are stealing things and making them in China. Just bring the technology. We will do the funding. And we can produce our own cell phone also in the country.
That brings up another question. Actually, like, how do we bridge the gap between us, the youth, and our elders in solving this issue? Like, because
your question is in two parts. Your question is in two parts. By saying how to bridge a gap, you've already accepted that the white man has put a bridge between me and you. I'm an old man, and here you are talking to me.
Exactly, that's true.
There's no. The young man who burns his father's house, his inheritance will be ashes. Just remember, all of us old people, we will go where all other old people go. And when we are gone, you are going to remain sitting exactly here where I'm sitting.
Yeah, true. That was my major concern, because it seems like our elders are not giving us the chance to explore and embrace ourselves in our own cultural way. We might have ideas as young, but we are always being suppressed. So now, what is the best way to approach them? It's like there's no trust. If they can trust us with the future of Africa, then there will be progress.
You don't need to be trusted, young men. Just remember, they are waiting to exhale. That future is yours. It's yours. Learn, underlearn them, study them. They are going. When we were younger, we thought old people did not understand. Now we are old. We discover that actually old people were struggling. I mean, it was easier. Mommy, can I go to the shops? Can I what? Mommy, money. Now you're waking. Now you're waking.
Yeah.
You fully and finally can understand that money, it's not as easy as you thought. Actually, I wrote a status the other day. I said, parenting is a scam. They never told us this thing is a big scam. Big scam. Because when you are in positions of responsibility, you actually discover that your parents were geniuses. How do you account for a father who brings up 8 children from Guru and sends them to school? All of them are graduates. And now they cannot look after one parent. He looked after 8 children. And he was uncivilized. The children are all civilized and educated, but they can't look after one parent.
Wow. I think I've been addressed fully.
I hope I didn't manhandle you.
No, actually, it's good for us. That's learning.
Thank you. I thank you.
Thank you, Mufasa, for those questions. Next up, and thank you so much, Baba Maponga, for the responses. Next up, we'll have Mpo, and then after Mpo, we'll have Akoma, and then after Akoma, we'll have Star. No, not Star. What's her name? I have to see. Ubusi. After Akoma, we'll have Ubusi. So Mpo, you can go ahead and ask your questions. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Michelle. Thokozani Lesedi Dumelang, everybody. This is Mpho, also known as Gogo Mama Kosi. I hope that Maponga you are well.
I'm recovering, madam. I'm recovering.
We thank the gods for that. I don't know if it's a question or I just need a clarity. I'm a young Sangoma. Lately, I've seen that we as the youth, we are coming of, I usually say we are coming of age in knowing or accepting our, what is the better word I can use? Of accepting our roots. Yes, let me say that. So, lately I've been working with people who are from the hospitals are diagnosed with depression and anxiety. And I wanted to ask you, how can one, as a young traditional healer, make it or make aware of us as the young youth or the African-ness of us that we, or how, what is the question? I don't know how to put this question. How can we link the Western, what's this?
I hear you. I hear you.
I hope you hear what I want to say. The link between us as Africans and how can we link it? How can we help African people solve this thing of what's this? Depression and anxiety? Because in most cases you'll find people who are diagnosed
where are you,
with depression.
Are you in Joburg? Are you in Joburg? Are you in China? Where are you?
No, I'm in South Africa. I'm in Free State.
Libiso, the name that is called Sangoma means the one who owns the song, the one who owns the drum, the one who heals with the drum, the one who heals with a song. Sangoma. Wenzani engomeni maungesona isangoma. For me, it is you young traditional healers beginning to fully embrace the technology that we have as Africans when it comes to depression. Things like drumming, things like nature walks, things like visiting sacred sites, things like water, things like mountain climbing, things which we actually know that the human body needs to be attached to these things. So before you can even talk about diagnosis and giving people herbs and medicines and etc., there's a natural way of life as an African, which you need to start putting in your space of practice so that your clients can have an African touch to their healing. So how do you connect your field of study and practicality? My advice would be look back into our African sciences, our African healing system, and look at the methods, whether it is bathing in mud, for example, or it is detoxification, for example, cleaning up the system. So before you can even deal with a person with depression, you may want to start off with and create a process that, okay, here is a patient. Okay, let me start off with their body first before I can move to their spirituality. What are the issues? What are they eating? What are they drinking? What is the stress level of their body before I can look at the stress levels of their minds? And you have all those sciences within your African space. So utilize them. You may actually end up running a most successful depression recovery center because our healing as African is more holistic.
True.
It's not drug related, which is suppressive, where you suppress a problem, but you're not solving a problem. So from what I'm hearing you, buy lots of drums, put them around your house. When people are depressed, come in there, let's play. Just hit some drums. And when also is sangoma, you heal with a song. And we know that depression can actually be handled also and treated through expression and beat a drum. You rather beat a drum than beat a human being. You rather make music than break someone's nose.
Yeah.
So use your indigenous knowledge systems, inculcate them into the technology and the field you're working in, hybridize them so that in your application of those methodologies, document them. You may be shocked. The University of Pretoria and WITS can come to you to say, she has a success rate of X. How is she doing it? Then our methods can begin to make way into the mainstream.
And one other thing, Dr. Maponga, I wanted to ask about these methodologies that we are using, the drums, going to the mountains and being within nature with oneself. When is it enough to say, I cannot open the door for everybody or the space for everybody to not see this A or to see this B? Or when is it enough to say, no, I don't want the whole world to be in touch with this because it is sacred for me?
There's a difference between secret and sacred. Secret means you don't want people to know. Sacred means it is preserved for those who must experience it. So you don't need to show everything.
So how do you introduce other people that you want to heal to go into those sacred world and for them to not tamper
what is
with
sacred
it
to us?
so that it can be made?
What is sacred to us is not shared with those who are not intended to know. Secrets is for information. Sacredness is for experience. We only share sacred space with those who want to experience and live in that space. So, yes, you cannot just be throwing away African technologies, and that's how they stole all these things. I mean, how can you even believe Nando's is a Portuguese company when the recipes from Mozambique? How do you even begin to talk about Europeans stealing our technologies and making it European technology? So, and I think Africans, we must be preserving some level of sacredness to our knowledge systems, because the world which we are living in, the Roman Dutch world we are living in, tends to want to steal and own these technologies. And by the time they are taken and stolen and owned, I'm looking at that woman in Kwandebele who branded that BMW with the Ndebele design. I feel sorry for her. Next thing you're going to be hearing a book that says we discovered the Ndebele culture. And I wonder when they produce those Ndebele cars, if she will get anything from there, like as long as she lives. But they will protect their Apples, they'll protect their Samsungs, they'll protect their Rolls Royce, they'll protect their Fords, they'll protect their properties. But when it comes to our knowledge, it does not have the same amount of protection. So for me, there's a difference between sacredness and secrecy. Secrecy is for information. Sacredness is for experience. I thank you.
Thank you very much.
Towaza Gogo, thank you so much. She has been really anticipating to talk to you, Baba Maponga, for more than 2 weeks. So
wow.
I bet today.
Thank you very much.
She'll have a good night. She'll have a good night today.
You're welcome, Gogo. Togoza. Togoza. The next person to ask a question is my brother from another mother. His name is Akoma and is from Ghana. Akoma, are you still around? Akoma? I'm not so sure. Is Akoma still around?
I think he's chewing some cola.
Yeah, I guess so. Okay, if Akoma is no longer around, then Ubusi can take the mic. Ubusi, are you still around?
Sanmonani, I am here. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak. Kamala Busi, my name is Busi from South Africa. Thank you so much for holding space like this in Africa Day. It's something that I haven't experienced actually ever. So for me, it's really enlightening. Sebon. My question, can you guys hear me?
Siyakuzwa.
Okay.
Yes. So, you know, my question is, how does one who is interested in natural medicine delve in deeper and finding the recipes and what amakambi, like the herbs, the different places to source them, etc. Because, you know, my mother is very interested in this homeopathic medicine, and we were living on the Isle of Man, in Ireland, England, and these people have written information. They have systems. They hold workshops. They have amakambi. They have their own herbs, where to find them, etc. And when you come back to South Africa, it's like, okay, there are pockets where abantu abadala, they know, but you have to be in those societies. You have to know those particular people, labo abadala, to find out even the shred of information. So I'm wondering, how does one collect and maybe even put it into a modern context for the young people to be able to have and to consume, because our history has been so oral. It's been orally passed down. My grandfather was a traditional healer, but never wrote anything down. So when he passed away with that knowledge, that power. So that is my question.
I think for cutting the long story short, indigenous medicines must speak to agriculture and land, because you cannot speak about herbs without having access to the land where the herbs can be grown. And ultimately, you need to have a holistic approach of how do you gather the information and preserve it. And of course, bearing in mind that every forest and every vegetation has herbs that are equivalent to the diseases that are found within that environment. So what you can find in KwaZulu-Natal, you necessarily will not find in Katima Mlilo in Namibia. What you find in Katima Mlilo in terms of vegetation, you may not find in Mutare, you may not find in Kisumu in Kenya, you may not find in Ife in Nigeria. So because each environment treats its own problems, if I can say. Each environment treats its own diseases. So, but what it takes, therefore, it is the young practitioners to begin to look at it holistically again. That do you only not need information about herbs, or do you want land? And then you study the land to see what is available on that land in terms of, there's no piece of land that does not have herbs in Africa. There is no piece of land. Every piece of land has healing properties in it. Every piece of land, every inch, every centimeter. It is designed like that. And we pride ourselves as Africans that we have our land that heals us. So maybe if you are to look at the food we plant, the chemicals we're withdrawing, and etc., to create a holistic healing process, for me, that becomes much more functional. So how do you marry your technology to your land? I would say, think of it holistically, and land will be a good space to start. If you have a river, even better. If you can have a mountain on the same land, even better. The 3 spaces, then you can actually look at the herbs that can grow on the mountains, the herbs that can grow next to the river, and the herbs that can grow on the mainland. And you can begin to find out exactly what kind of diseases do we have here in this environment. And I think COVID proved us right and wrong in many ways. Now, Mhlonyana, people are drinking this Zumbani and what and all these things that our forefathers were using for the longest of time. I've even found a pastor drinking. I even found a pastor umfundis with a whole full 5 liter of indigenous medicine in his box. And they were calling me a witch doctor and they were calling me witchcraft names a few weeks earlier. But when COVID came, boo, here we are. All of us drinking herbs and herbs.
Now, once those herbs have been found, once the studies have been made, and now the marriage between, okay, these are the diseases that we have here, these are the herbs that we have here. Now, as with any medicine, it's a concoction of things that heals different things, right? Now, if we delve deeper, if I can't just, okay, now I'm coming in, I'm gonna study. How do we then find out, okay, if I take this bark and I crush it and I mix it with this leaf, it will fix this problem?
Okay. I think maybe you may need a private conversation with me outside of this space.
Okay.
Your questions are becoming more technical in terms of application of herbs and etc. But within a spiritual space, usually those that are able to function there, they have instruction ahead of time, they have dreams ahead of time, they have knowledge ahead of time, and they know exactly what to do, when to do, and how to do before it happens. But if you are still a student, ufuna usebenza nabokobela and learn how to mix and fix your herbs, I suggest maybe the easiest thing you can do is maybe you need one of my hats, actually. You need one of my hats, and you need to sit down with it and look at it and study it carefully. Then you can go from body to blood to organs to herbs and see how you begin to deal with problems. But outside of that, mixtures and etc. And take note, young lady, that our forefathers have thousands of years of experience.
Of course.
These herbs, how do you know that that tree can do this and you must drink it like this? That's a research that is not done overnight. Our forefathers have been here before us. They have studied the environment. They experimented with every herb in. Can you imagine how much research was that? That a family can start to study and say, a child is sick here, and you try this herb, you try this herb, you try this herb, until you find the herb that works. Can you imagine how many hundreds of years that research took us? And for the white men to come around one morning and say, that's rubbish, I got offended. Because, man, this has taken us thousands of years to find out that this herbs works like this. This herbs works like this. This is for reproduction. This is for wounds. This is for headache. This is for teeth. This is for intestines. This is for eyes. This is for nose. This is for mosquito repellents. This is, hey, this is a school. This is a university. This is a university. You need the size of Eiffel Towers worth of books to understand what I'm saying. And for us to have that information from our forefathers, now we simply say, you have a flu. Oh, please, go and take that herb. Oh, you have this. Go and take that herb. But if you can just go back and say, how did they come to that conclusion? The amount of experiments of which herb works for what, which herbs works for what, which herbs works for what, and how many herbs do you need, and each disease, with each experiment. Guys, respect yourself as Africans. You guys are way beyond research. Our forefathers put this thing together. It's tight. It's tight. If you don't respect it, the least you can do is shut up. If you don't understand, just shut the fuck up. Sorry for the language.
Well, thank you so much for answering the question. I appreciate it.
Maponga, can I answer to Busi in a basic answer? What I wanted to ask is like, we do still have grandfathers and grandmothers. Our conversations between them, how often do we still ask about, you guys before you did have these same diseases, but how did you treat them? You did have headache. How did you treat headache? You got a knee problem. How did you treat them? Because before all these medicines, we did have these diseases, and we used to treat them good until they came with their medicines, and now like, oh, my stomach, go to what. Before, okay, yo, drink this, they will do it. But now we don't have these conversations, and they are dying, they are getting old, and they're dying with that knowledge because we don't even ask, we don't even bother. So I feel like we should talk about this with our grandparents or our mkolos. We talk about it. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, I think for growth purposes, it's important to plug yourself in your history, sit around fires, because when you look at African knowledge systems and use a colonial method of learning, then it becomes complicated. African knowledge systems are organic. It's your grandfather taking you with you to the bush. Oh, next time you get hurt, this is what you use. It's your grandfather taking you to the kraal when a cow is sick. Oh, okay, you take that thing there, take that aloe there, and not put on that wound. The cow will be healed. And so it is not static as if you can find it in an A4 double-spaced piece of paper and we can say, here's African knowledge systems. It was experienced from the time we're hunting to the time we're fishing, to the time we're turning skins, to the time we're harvesting or beating corn or cutting firewood or building a new hut or putting mud in it or taking cow dung to smear the floors or boys being circumcised. Knowledge was continuous. Every day was a classroom. Every experience was a learning space. So when many of you are coming from the colonial kind of education, where you want to sit in a class and be told, this is this, this is this, this is this, you're abusing us as old people because we don't have the curriculum, for crying out loud. And I would say to you as young people, don't memorize my words. Learn my ways, and my words will come to you.
Wise way.
Wow.
So go back, learn the ways of your grandmother, your grandfather. Look at her when this has happened, how she responds. Look at her when this one is sick, how she responds. Look at her when this one is this one is that, this one is that. And you begin to see her ways. And when you find her ways, you can say that in your own words.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, Michelle.
Yeah, it does make sense. A lot of it.
Because many of our young people, because they're coming from school and they've been taught to memorize. So they want to come around here and memorize me, memorize, like get a few hashtag words. And it's not like that. Wisdom is not a hashtag. It's understanding and experience. And yeah. I am not my grandfather, but my grandfather is me, but I'm not him.
That's true.
I have adapted, I have learned, and when it comes out of me, it's the same message in a newer vessel.
Different way, yeah.
Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Maponga, for the response. Thokozani. And my brother from another mother who decided to go out the other time is now back. So Akoma, please take the mic. We are waiting for you. I hope he didn't run away again, because Akoma?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, thanks for coming through again.
Sure, thank you so much. I'm so sorry for that. It was a bit of an internet glitch.
It's okay.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't know how to address Maponga. I don't know if I should say Mr. because of some of the things that he did say in the beginning.
No. you can say everything else, but don't call me Mr., please. You'll be insulting me.
All right. I'm so sorry about that. So let me just get straight to the question.
How do you address, how old are you?
I'm 21.
How do you address a 52-year-old man in your village?
I call him father.
Yeah, then stay there. Stay in your culture. You can call me your dad. Actually, my daughter is 25 years old. So if you are 20, yeah.
All right.
I hope you get your answer in my frustration. Yeah.
I do understand. But for me, I think I spoke with so like last year or the year before that, and the whole getting to know your identity is kind of new to me, right? But then my question here will be that in my conversations with someone who seeks to know his roots, like African roots and all that, I tend to see some form of like extremism in it, so that sometimes when you're having a conversation on something that you might disagree, it looks as if the quote and unquote Western source of information is altogether not credible, so that it's very difficult to have a conversation about things that we perceive to be facts, but then just because it is Western, like the person just brushes it off. So it looks to me that it becomes a very non-Western form of culture, so that we are so focused on ourselves that we become antagonistic to every other culture. That's how I see it. So how do we navigate the waters so that we don't become very antagonistic to every other culture other than ourselves?
If you are scared of antagonism, you are not ready for the battle. If we are already compromised. I'm sorry to start from the more offensive side. Okay. We already compromised in many ways than one. We are already dead. We're already captured. We're already colonized. We're already vandalized. We're destroyed. And for crying out loud, what we're trying to do is recovery. How do you abuse a girl and then you want to recommend a doctor? You want to become the one who's going to do the counseling? You know, you're not hearing my illustration. You abuse me, and then you want to become my counselor. Hello, ladies. Can I hear some shouting out there? Whoa. ML up. Because it cannot happen that you can be the source of my pain and you want to position yourself as the reason for my healing. It's not true. It's not right. It's not correct. Yeah. As Africans, in our thinking pattern, how can the colonial system, having dumped us this far, and they come around and say, no, we'll help you to recover financially. We'll help you. We'll recommend which God you can pray to. We'll help you. We know which fashion you must put on. We'll help you. We'll tell you how you must get married. No, don't worry. We'll help you. We'll tell you where to sell your minerals. No, we'll help you. Hey, you're not my friend. You're my abuser, for crying out loud. You need to be in the Hague in ICC. You need to be locked up behind bars. Shut up for once as a European. Just shut up. Sorry for shouting. But I hope you can feel my anger. And many of these educated young boys and girls, when they are accommodating and tolerant to an abusive system, this is how I feel. It cannot be. Michelle, I harass you, I abuse you, then I come in the morning and I say, I'll help you to heal.
Doesn't work that way. We don't do that over here.
No. I would rather take money and go to my grandmother back in the village and and I would deal with my pain my way. Because as long as I see you in my face, the memory of what you have done comes alive. I hope you can hear me, Honorable, in my presentation. You cannot use the same system that abused you to heal you.
Akoma, are you still with us?
Yeah, you said you started on the offensive, so I'm looking for the other side of the answer.
Okay. So, yeah, we move on to the next question. The other person who raised up their hand is Iba Bis. And then the next after him, Tayo will have to speak. And then after Tayo, it's Humble King. After Humble King, it's going to be Nash, then Gledmore, and we close the webinar.
Minage.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so Ngawe Francis.
Thank you.
Hey, but I also had a question.
Just
I have
follow
a
the line.
question with a Q or with a K. Question. I have a question.
Well, a question. Okay. Oh, by the way, there's also Stephen. So before you, Francis, there's Stephen. Yeah. So right now, I need Mr. Ibabis to speak, and then after him, Tayo, then Humble King, Nash, then Stephen, then Cledmore. In that order.
Yeah, is it my turn, Bobby?
Ibabis, Mr.
Yeah.
We can.
So,
Where are you from,
can
my
you hear me?
brother?
Yeah, I'm coming with that. I'm from Cameroon.
Oh, okay. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah,
You can
thank
ask your
you.
question, sir.
Yeah, and I'm happy to be here. Sorry that I'm still outside
It's
and it's a little bit
okay.
noisy.
It's okay.
Yeah, and I came in late and I've missed a lot, but I'm still struggling to
For the
follow up.
why. For the why. Why did you come in late? Why?
That's why I'm still outside, big
Roast
brother.
them.
Yeah, hustling. It's not easy. Yeah, so I just have some question and some suggestions because my questions goes like this. For we to change Africa, I think we need to start with our leaders. What do you think we have to do on that aspect? Because that's the main thing. We might want to take the power to change things, to even bring people to come and develop. But when we reach down, the leaders, the leaders, they have this bottleneck. They don't even know how you work your money, but when you come, they just want to reap from where they did not sow. So I'll ask our big brother to try to elaborate or give us suggestions on how we can go. Should I just go ahead and then you answer it also?
Yes, I hear you. Transformation is not an easy thing because it cannot be about leaders. The question is, which home produces those leaders?
Sure.
You, as Africans, you want good leaders, good politicians. Can you give me an address where those leaders are being brought up? Can you show me the father of those leaders and their mother? Can you show me the community that is building those leaders? And when you answer that question, you may actually discover you are what we are waiting for. We're waiting for you to produce that child who will become a leader for us. Because there's no way you can expect another home to produce a leader that will guide you towards Africa that you want, and you're not involved in the process. I hope you can hear me.
Yep.
There's no factory in Africa that produces good leaders. We are all coming from those homes. The question is, what are we training? What are we building? What are we birthing? And what are we developing?
Yep.
Because until every family becomes responsible for producing the next best leader, we're going to be running in circles.
That's true.
Because you are there as civilians waiting for a leader. But from whose house?
True.
From whose womb? No, we don't want corruption. African leaders are corrupt. Hey, from whose house are they coming from?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Our progress
thank you.
as Africa
Okay.
must be holistic,
Yeah.
must be holistic. Every individual, every family must be involved in the developmental project so that we work together. And you know that what you are doing in your house will affect all of us. What you are birthing in your house will affect all of us. The child you are producing in your house will affect all of us. Either as a criminal, as a leader, as a doctor, as a teacher, but they're going to impact all of us. That's why we say it takes a village to bring up a child.
Yeah.
I thank you.
Thank you, too, sir. Thank you. And I have suggestions to all my African brothers and sisters who are out here. I think when I was finished, then maybe if you have something to add, sir, you can then go ahead. For example, I think we are too shy to sell out our culture out here. Most of us are too shy. For example, you meet an African on the way or on the street and you even greet him like the normal pigeon, the person will behave as if he's not from your continent, and which you know that this is your African brother. And sometimes even the food, they pretend as if they don't even eat any African food. They're from America, you know, that kind of a thing. It really hurts. I quote example to myself. I'm out here. I do plant African vegetables, and I sell them to the Chinese. I give them, try them, test it, and they eat it. Eat with their hands. When I have parties, I cook African food that you eat with your hands. When you want to eat with a spoon, I say no. This food is meant to be eaten with the hands. So I think and when they try it, they love it. They want it all the time. So I just think we don't have to be shy and try to sell our culture out there. And I heard you talking about traditional medicine. Now Chinese now is taking Chinese traditional medicine out to the world and saying that is his thing. That's his thing. But where the traditional medicine came from? Africa. But Chinese now is owning it, saying that it's his own thing. We are sitting, we are just watching. We can't stand up and fight for things like that. So that's just the little I have to share. And thanks for this opportunity. And I wish better ones are going to come ahead. Thanks.
Mr. Tayo.
Thank you, Baba. Thank you for. Wait, Michelle,
You
am I
being
on?
reflective there, rubbing your lower lip with the intention, you know, like, what the hell is going on down here?
No. Thank you for joining us today. It's a great pleasure to have you here. And I think that we're talking about very, very, very valuable things here today. So I have one question, and another one is just sort of to like an affirmation of something you were talking about before. So I'll start with the affirmation first. And the reason I say this is the concept of ancestral memories. We as African people, we have something called an ancestral memory. And there's proof of that in the world. A lot of people here have been talking about finding out more about their culture and everything and all of that. I mean, I, for one, I was lucky enough to have parents who realized at a very, it wasn't too late before they brought me back into the African culture. I'm from Nigeria. So what is
Which part of
initially
Nigeria? Which part of Nigeria?
Yoruba, the Yoruba nation.
I was in Port Harcourt. I did Ife, Benin, and
Great.
also up the new capital city. What do you call it?
Abuja.
Abuja, yes. I did
Yeah.
Abuja and
Great.
yeah, quite a little bit.
Great.
And of course, I had my big friends in Lekki in Lagos there, yeah.
Yes, yes. So the concept of the ancestral memory that I was saying, in my research about, I've been on a journey to truly discover what it means to be someone from the Yoruba nation. The history of Nigeria, as a lot of people know, is very it's not true. And it takes a lot of research, a lot of effort to really find out where you're from and what it really means to be a Nigerian, today's Nigeria, and what it was. So in that research, I found out about people from Trinidad and Tobago. I don't know if people are familiar with that story, but during the days of the slave trade, and a lot of the slaves that were taken from the African continent ended up in these places. Now, what is known today as the can, it's called the can. It's one of the most famous instruments in Trinidad and Tobago, right? Was originally inspired by the bata drum. So when they were slaves, the slave masters didn't want them to beat those drums because they thought that they were trying to send messages across. So the only way that they could sort of still keep that heritage was to create those cans. And now it's a staple of Trinidad, of their culture, of everything. My point is, those guys were able to make those things because of the ancestral memory that they had. This is what, almost 60 years after, and they're still doing that, which goes into the concept of, yes, we do have our ancestors inside of us. But now this brings me to my question that I want to ask you. And I do get into a lot of conversations with a lot of Africans and brothers and sisters here. The concept of identifying as Black. I want to get your perspective because I do have my perspective on that, and I'll share that so that you can share more insights. Using the word Black as an identity is a false, wrong construct. And the reason I say that is because in the Yoruba culture, for example, there's nowhere that I've read or that I've heard where people are described as Black or by the color of their skin. And I've had this conversation with Michelle, I've had this conversation with all the African brethren who are down here. And there's nowhere in anybody's culture where they're described as Black. Now, as someone who, unluckily, I would say, I've been exposed to the American culture and the Western culture for quite some time. The history of the word Black was started as a result of the slave trade in the 19th century and things like that. And after a while, I think it was during the emancipation movement and everything. Now, the African Americans the slaves that were there at that point, they needed something to hold on to. And then instead of being spited with the word Black, they just chose to say, okay, you know what? I'm Black and I'm proud. What are you going to do about this now? And that was where it started becoming accepted as a definition or as a cultural identity. Now, when you ask a lot of people who come to China, and the reason I say this is because it's a rippling effect. When people move outside of their countries in Africa, that's the first time that they recognize that they're Black. Once they're at home, they never know they're Black. They know that they're Zulu, they know that they're Tosa, they know that they're Yoruba, they know that they're Igbo. They never know that they're Black because it's not an identity. But now, with pop culture, with a lot of this influence of the Western music, Western movies, and everything, and even some African artists and African context now, you find that a lot of young Africans are identifying more with the concept of being, oh, where are you from? I'm Black. For me personally, when I hear the word Black, I only think of one thing because that was the original meaning: slaves. I am not a slave. I am not a person that I'm not a commodity. So, and I say this because now in China, one of the biggest struggles that I've had, because I'm involved in a lot of making videos, helping Chinese companies to tell stories of China and Africa, helping some of the government authorities and things like that. In China, the word Black is heiren. Now, in the Chinese language, nothing good is attributed with the word hey, which is Black. If they're saying something is ugly, there's hey, which means Black. If they're saying something is bad, it's hey, it's Black. And this same construct is attributed to people from African countries. Now, when I still try to have this conversation with young Africans, young brothers and sisters, to say, why do you identify as Black? Black is not supposed to be an identity. It's not a true narrative. It's not a true representation of who you are. And I'm sure Toya probably has some insights into this as well because of the industry that we're in. So is it just a case of, you know, why do we say we're black when we're not? It's not who we are. Why have we adopted the word, oh, we're black, we're from Africa? No, we're not black. We're people. We have a When you ask a Chinese person, who are you? They don't say, oh, I'm yellow skinned. No, I'm Chinese. That's a very strong fundamental identity. And we were talking earlier before you joined Baba. Toya was saying how knowing yourself, and I believe that this is in one way how I personally feel like knowing ourselves is saying that I'm not black. I know where I'm from. My grandfather never identified as black. My great grandfather never identified as black. Why should I now say that I'm black? I'm not black. So where do we go from here? But I don't know if you agree with the concept of black as an identity, or if you have like an insight with that. So where do we go from here, and how do we stop this nonsense of saying black? Now, if someone who grew up African American, they might identify with that because of their history. But as someone who is still very strongly connected to the African countries, why should you say you're black? You're not. You were never a slave. Why identify with something that only represents years and years of misery? Now, people say it's a case of, well, we're doing that just so that, you know, something that you've accepted can hurt you. I think it's bullshit. It's not who we are. Because the moment we start to accept that, now every Chinese person goes, oh, Heiren, Heiren, Heiren. And they have stereotypes in their culture that is related to the word black. And we take on all of those stereotypes just by identifying with that word, even if we don't know what those contexts are. So I'm very passionate about this, because for me, what I'm trying to do in this world now is to rebrand the African story. And we made a video about it. And I was very proud of Michelle. While she was writing the poem, she never used the word black. I didn't tell her, but it was the first thing I was looking for. She never wrote in that poem the word black. And I was so proud of that. So first of all, where do you stand on that, Baba? And secondly, how do we move past this nonsense?
Maybe initially, when you don't identify yourself, other people will identify you. When you don't label yourself the way you want to be labeled, other people will label you. And frankly speaking, the definition of ourselves has never been from ourselves. It has been an external identity that we are given. Whether it is black, or it is nigger, or it is Africanus, or it is what, all these are what they say we are. I almost feel like preaching, actually. Yeah. They say, like, Isaiah. Some say you are Jeremiah. Others say you are Elijah. Then he says, but who do you say
you are?
I am.
Who are you?
They say. Maybe we need to start a narrative that says they say we are this, but what do we say we are? And that needs to speak to our literature, our entertainment, our narrative, that we define ourselves the way we want to be defined. I mean, I look around my page sometimes when I'm being invited for these meetings, bishop this, bishop this, bishop this, even after I tell them, hey, I don't want this title anymore. But I've lived in this space for almost 33 years, and some people just find it too difficult. They cannot deal with me outside of my bishop title. So even when I'm no longer there, I've moved. No, but you are still my bishop. So people say, are we going to allow the external world to define us? Or are we going to define ourselves? That for me becomes the acid question. Because remember, history always takes the complexion of the author.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, to add to that, if that's okay, with this whole, first of all, Maponga, humbled to be in this space, but I just felt to add just 2 cents to what you're saying about being black. I actually have merch, because the whole thing of rebranding how we think about
ourselves, we need to see it. It's all about representation. So there's merch that says, "Do not call me black," in the front, and at the back it says unapologetically African. You know, I don't define myself as black. I don't want to be called black. I've never identified as that. Call me Zulu at least. I mean, you know, if you want to go deeper, go Nubian. We can go there, but don't call me black. Don't call me by my color. And another thing is, for instance, things like criminals, all of these things that have been used, as Ubaba has just said just now, to describe, it's just extensions taking us further away, separating us from who we are at core. Whether it's criminals, you'll find the word came from Seminoles back in the day, you know? You know what I'm saying? So as Baba said, yes, they call you this, they say you, who are you? And with the arts, if you'll go back, not because I'm punting my stuff, but in this project of using music and language to kind of help people reclaim themselves, because it's very personal. The first question, as Baba has said, and what I also explored in bringing together rave and my language and connecting these words, what the songs talk about is Umubani, who are you? So if you cannot answer that question, if you have to say, oh, I'm a princess, or I've got cars, I've got all these sort of things, nah, that's not the answer. And you haven't actually gotten to that place yet where you've completely decolonized and found your core. That's my 2 cents.
Okay, thank you so much, Toya. Baba Maponga, I actually have a question, and to you as well, Toya, and Teo. Teo, okay, it rhymes.
I want to add something also.
So,
who said that in answer to your question? I also have a question for you.
Okay, you can give me the question later on. My question is this, yeah? Uti Abesuthu, they are called Basuthu because they identify themselves with Suthu, meaning brown, which is actually the color of their skin. So basically, according to them, everyone from Africa is a Musuthu. Everyone who is here on this webinar is a Musuthu. You're a brown person. And all of us are Basuthu, according to them. So if we are to say that as Africans, we never identified ourselves based on the color of our skins, then what do we say ngabesuthu? What do we say?
I want to throw this one at Toya and other musicians. I want you to come up with a poem that has all the African tribes. If you want to define the African, as our colonialists call us, I want you to say, the Basotho say we are brown. The Karangas say we are the children of Ka, who came from Ra. We have Nga, knowledge of healing and etc. And then the Tongas says we are the rulers and the governors and etc. And the Swazis were the people of discipline and order. The Zulus, we are the people of the skies and the heavens, and the Igbos and the Kikuyus and the Masais. Because in all this knowledge system, you may actually find that the definition of who we are is inculcated and intertwined in this tapestry of African knowledge systems. So then the Ndebeles, what does Ndebele mean? The Chitikulus, what does it mean? The Waganda, the people of the skin. Ganda is skin. Waganda, the people of the black skin. You know what I'm saying? So maybe you might want to sit around and do an anthropological research into the tribal names of the African cultural cliques and etc. You may actually come up with a fuller definition of who are these people. In Mali, what are they? In Tunisia, what are they? In Congo, what are they? In Gambia, what are they? In Nigeria, in Swaziland, in Somalia, what are they? Then our definition is not localized to interpretation, but it is actually intertwined in our cultural expression of who we think we are as a people. I am a Karanga. Ka. That is knowledge. Ra. Light. Nga. Healing. We are the people who have knowledge from the sun of how to heal. Karanga. That is, you can even go back in your old ancient Egyptology, you find Ka, Ra, Nga. Nga is the wise man. Ra is the sun. Ka is the light. Yeah? So maybe we have not been defined because we have not sought to define ourselves. So this one is yours, Toya. Surprise me with a hit that looks at all African tribes, how they want to be called. Chiche, Machewa, Machangani, Mavenda, Venda, the Venda, and etc. You go back in all the Igbos, you go back into the what called them in the whole collage of the African tribes and how they define themselves, And I think that a piece of each one of them makes all of us. Because we did not walk away with nothing. We all walked away with something.
Yeah.
The Koi and the sun, the people of the sun, people whose calendar is governed by the sun. The people of the skin, the Sutus, the down brown skins, the Tswanas, the Ndebeles, the Vendas, the Shonas, the Karangas, the Chewas, the Masais, the Kikuyus. And if you look inside each tribe, we may just find each other.
Absolutely.
Indeed.
Can I
I'm sorry for raising my voice. Something was moving in my spirit.
And we can do that.
My voice a little bit tight.
We can mobilize the various African countries. We call Cameroonians, they come in their tribes, called Zambians, Tunis, and all that. We come together, we make a voice, and then we combine it all together and then put it in a video. No matter the length, even if it's 20 minutes, 30 minutes, we put it out there so the world will hear our voice and know that there is a rising culture coming up that is an ancient one that will make a great news all over the world, and people will want to learn. Then I think from there we can move in like the rolling lion that we are.
Can I say something?
Deep, my brother. Let's follow a sequence.
I
Let's
want
follow a
to-
sequence. Let's follow a sequence. So before someone speaks, may they kindly go through me?
Yeah.
All right.
Michelle, let me sort of answer like the question you asked to sort of just cap off what Baba said in terms of the context behind these names. So, for example, the tribe you mentioning, sorry, that they were referred to as the people with the brown skin. The thing is, the context behind that name has nothing derogatory. So the context behind the word black as an identity has only one meaning. It means slaves or people that were better than. Just it was a way to classify and separate people, and that's just a function of American system. The American system is based on dividing everything. America is the only country where you have African Americans, Mexican Americans, Latin America, Chinese American. There's just a division at every level of the country. And now to see that, so the thing, and this is what I told someone, when someone from Sudan, for example, tells me that we have this word in my country, that, for example, the people with the brown skin, I know that it doesn't mean slaves. But the moment you change that, and maybe we should just not use the word black because there's just one meaning for black as an identity. There's no, the translation doesn't transfer once you move it from the initial culture back to using the word black, because the word black means only one thing, right? There's a reason why those people didn't call themselves black.
Before we go to the next speaker.
Sorry?
I beg to differ before we go to the next speaker because I'll forget this point.
Okay. All right. Sure. Let's
I'll
hear it.
forget my point. My brother, being black and being who you are is the only thing that you never fail. At first, when you started speaking, you spoke about the ancestral memory that remains in our veins. Our veins, the only thing that our skin remembers. Mr. Maponga says we have got brains in all of our cells. Our cells remember the skin color. It will never forget. That skin color is the only color that cannot be diluted. In the beginning, there was darkness. These are the black people. If we don't beautify our thing, our darkness, that's when there is the problem. In my country, there is a poem when I grew up, Inyatelo 5. It says, Mina himina angisue. It's me, I'm not you. Ngimnyama okuphindwe kathathu. Ngizinyo yiliqhwa umageza ngechako. It just explains the beauty of who you are. Nginwele zipothene zimaqwayibana. This is who I am. I am black and I'm not you.
Yeah.
So if you understand that even when we go to our African spiritual cultures, intondole mnyama ngeyamadlozi, everything that is black is for the ancestors. Our ancestors, you cannot have ensundu. We call, Michelle, you said abasoto, we say abansundu.
Abansundu.
Insundukazi inkomelo mbala omnyama. Ensundu ngeyamadlozi is for the ancestors. That one, if you try to say black is not good, you never heal, my brother, because you remain a black person. But beautify your blackness. Just like what the Americans ended up saying, nigga, my friend, nigga, what? Just enjoy being black, my brother. You never heal, especially here in China. Kids, they'll touch you and say, how, hey, yeah, what? They will talk about your skin up until you get mad. You make a revolution and whatsoever, you get mad. Beautify
no. You don't have to, especially.
The only thing that you cannot fail to become is to be yourself and to be your skin color. You will never fail unless you bleach.
Okay, about China and our skin color, can I say something?
Yes.
I think the problem is that many of us don't know what to answer. Because if somebody is looking at my skin and they say, wow, you're very dark, and I know I'm brown, I always say, well, you know, barbecue chicken is nicer than white chicken, raw chicken. The whole conversation immediately stops and it becomes something else. As long as you know how to answer, the whole thing will stop. As long as people know that you appreciate who you are and that you look at them in your way, you see it like your color is not that nice either. Instead of just be the one who just gets beaten. I don't accept to be beaten. I absolutely don't accept. I travel around China, and if people start with my skin color, I say, at least I'm nice brown. It's nice. It's tastier to eat a barbecue chicken. You know,
I say I'm dark chocolate. Then they say I love chocolate.
If they say you love chocolate, you say, okay, yeah, but I'm not chocolate. You cannot eat me. Finish. You must know how to answer and never get angry. I can never get angry. I always try to solve the issues with humor. And the minute you bring humor in, everybody's laughing. The whole thing is not interesting anymore. It becomes interesting if people see that it can hurt you. Because I've noticed one thing.
A limitation to life. Never have dislike.
Okay,
Likes and dislikes are a limitation to life. Likes and dislikes are a limitation. Like who you are, never dislike anything that they say. You cannot control what someone says to you. What you react to them.
Ladies and gents, let's follow the sequence. There was another person who had their hand raised up, so they need to speak first. Yeah, before we deviate.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Envious of what we're eating in Africa here, some guinea fowls, some vegetables, and some brown pap, you know.
Lucky. Yum.
These two
this some guinea fowl, some beans, and that's my lunch.
Oh, that's
so when I'm blocking you off my face, I'm just trying to have some lunch. This meeting is taking longer than I had thought, but I'm willing to hang around. So without being offensive, when I block my face, I'm just taking a nibble. I'm listening.
Okay, the next speaker was supposed to be Humble King. And after Humble King, let me check who is next. After Humble King, there is Nash, then Stephen. Yeah. Humble King, hi. You may take the mic.
Hello, Mr. Hello.
I don't know. Where is
Uh,
because I was one with this number here, then I changed my name. I don't know if you
Yeah,
guys
Dawn
kind of like
should have
skipping.
spoken a
I
long
just
time
have something
ago.
to say.
Dawn, did you raise your hand? Your hand is
He
not
did.
Of course,
raised.
you look at the comment section
He
for a
did.
long
He
time.
did.
Oh, so wait.
He did.
Okay, before you speak, Humble King, let Dawn speak, and then after Dawn,
It's okay. I speak after him. I speak after
yeah.
him. I mean,
Right.
be cool off a bit. I've been waiting and like getting
Sorry
impatient.
about that, Don. Sorry. He actually did. He did.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Maponga, Masquera Seiva Maponga, you talked about the fingers analogy when you're talking about the genealogy and you're talking about how identity is important to us. And you also, I've been following you for a very long time. So on one of your videos, you said there was a question that was mentioned about how our ancestors are referred to as devils. And on one of your videos, you said that if you believe that your ancestors are devils, when you die and you become an ancestor, you also become a devil. You've also been talking about the genealogy of Jesus and how it's well documented and everything is written. The son of Jesse, the son of David, the son of so-and-so, and how it goes. But we can't say the same about our own genealogies. Excuse me. We can't say the same about our own genealogies as African young people. I've also heard you talk about your genealogy in detail. You say I'm Joshua Maponga, the son of so-and-so, the son of so-and-so, the son of so-and-so. So my question is, how important is our genealogies beyond the 4 cardinals that you gave us?
Yeah.
Where you start from probably 10 generations like you do when you speak, and you do it so proudly. And I find it fascinating and I envy you all the time you do it. The other question is, if there are any sources, how did you get to know about who was your grandfather 10 generations from your immediate grandfather? Do you have any books that you can recommend or any methods of finding these things? As I think it's very important. I have another question again, so I think I'll ask both of them. Or should I let you answer first, then I'll ask the second one?
By the time I ask the second one, I won't remember the first one.
All right.
I think when it comes to our genealogical information, it just depends how fortunate. I must not gloat or brag, but I must say I'm very fortunate. One of the most fortunate African children to have lived, to have been born, to have known my grandfather, to have known my grandmother, to have known my aunties, my uncles, my nephews, my nieces, vanakatete, vanababamkuru. I have experienced all African relationships in all their tapestry. Chizukuru, V, chana chavatete, chana chambuya, chana chiazvanzi, like the whole pens and whistles, which does not happen to many of us who have not even, some of us even scary that we don't even know our fathers. That's how bad this is. But I was fortunate to know my mother, know my father, know my grandfather who brought me up. And while I was sitting with him, then I would be asking who was his father. Then he would tell me who was his father. Like everyone would know who his father is, he would also tell you who his father was. So slowly but surely, I collected naturally. It never happened in a classroom setting. It was natural. Your name is Joshua. I named you after myself. Your father is Lazarus. The other uncle, Babatrai, I also named him Joshua. Okay? No, you are Joshua the third. Because the day you were born, I said you were Joshua also. Then I asked him, who is your father? No, I am born from Munyuki, born from Maponga. Maponga born from Baba Maponga Diani, Dindinduma, Baba Ntuma Diani. the chapinduka ndiani, this boo ndiani, and it happened in such an organic way that in my world I never thought it was anything a wow to write home. I thought it was happening everywhere else. Because when you are exposed to an environment that is so natural and you get such amounts of information naturally, you would be thinking that everyone else next door is getting the same amount of information. And only in old age do I actually look back and say, I was fortunate. I was fortunate. But again, the library of a black man is in the spirit. The library of a white man is in books. If you can sit around and you plug into the spiritual space, that information you're looking for is readily available.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. My last question. So I'm going to bring a bit of context to this question. So you realize that if anything happens to Chinese people in the USA, once the Chinese government speaks, they will listen. If something happens to Europeans somewhere in South Africa or in Zimbabwe, once the European governments speak, our governments are forced to listen. So I wanted to ask, what role does Africa play in the respect, what role does Africa play towards the goal of having the global Africa respected? By the global Africa, I'm referring to everybody who might be called Black and everybody who's the son of the African soil, and vice versa. How the world views us is also sometimes a product of the global Africa, more than it is a product of the behaviors of people that were born on the African continent. So for that, I'm talking about sometimes how the world sees us as Black people is probably a product of the Black people they saw in America, somewhere in Latin America, or somewhere else, but not necessarily the African continent. So what role does the global Africa play in shaping the image of the real sons or the people that were born on the African continent? I hope you get me clearly.
Yeah, but it's a bit complex because again, it goes back to your first question that you asked at the beginning as to our identity as Africans. And as long as someone from outside is defining us as to who we are, they're bound to label us to who they think we should be. Is it not funny right now that this monkey skin disease is in Europe, but all the pictures on YouTube are black people? I mean, like, sorry for the language, for fuck's sake. The problem is there in Europe. But the pictures you are putting on the social media space are all black people who got monkey disease. And for the longest of time, you've called us monkeys. So again, the narrative will always be in the hands of the one who is writing. And if we wait for them to define us, if we wait for them to outline for us as to who and what we should be, they will define us according to what they think. I mean, the other day I put a poster which offended many Christians, where we have now come to understand actually that the Queen of London owns the intellectual rights and property rights to the King James Version, the Bible. She owns it. It's part of her IP. Hello? It's her IP. She owns the rights to the King James Version. And here we are. The whole fucking Christian world going crazy about the Bible being the word of God, which is an intellectual property of one tired old woman sitting in London. You understand why slavery is in the book? Slaves obey your masters, no slaves. Now you understand, because the one who edits and the one who owns it would write it to the spec of what he wants to achieve. Some of these things we're saying, of course, are way beyond your maturity age. But when you become of age, you will remember them.
Thank you, Mr. Maponga. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your questions, Humble King. Right now, we'll have to go to Dawn. Sorry, my brother, for keeping you waiting. I hope you do.
It's okay. I almost forgot all my questions. Thank you very much for the opportunity. First of all, my name is John, and my native name is Chukwemeka, but people really identify me with John. I'm from Nigeria, Delta State, and honestly speaking, while I was at my place, I barely knew much about the Black history, um, the African history, for sure, and the history we have been taught in school. They barely teach history in my community, and the ones they teach are the ones written by the Black men, and how they name the bridge are very close to me, calling it what's it called, the Niger Bridge. That's a topic for another day. But okay, I came to start. I kind of like lately I've begun to have this kind of awakening, asking a lot of questions about the slave trade, what really happened. I started making some research and checking online. And lately, I've been trying to see if I can get some book to read to get some knowledge of what really happened. I have no idea of this. My daddy never told me. The school never taught me. My daddy only told me about the civil war of Nigeria back then. So, with my little experience here and how I see the Chinese culture and how they preserve their culture despite the Western influence, no matter how they tried, but they tried to like preserve their real culture, and they have that in mind. I mean, look at China today. They got most of that advanced technology from the West, but still, they preserve their culture. They preserve who they are. And an average Chinese today have this kind of ideology on how the Japanese dealt with them many years ago. Not only Chinese, I think an average Asian man, both the Singapores, they have this at the back of their mind on how the Chinese dealt with them, on how the Japanese dealt with them and terrorized Asia many years ago during the war. And yeah, and because of that, they try as much as possible to develop and never to be intimidated again. So this is my a kind of a little awakening lately, but this is my question. And why is it that, like, why is it? Because I came to realize actually the white man, they really dealt with us for real. We are really brainwashed for real, especially with this religion of a thing, the Christians, the Muslim, and stuff like that. And it's really a tool for mind control. That's kind of like my little realization lately. And because I was beginning to ask myself, why is it that our own culture, we don't acknowledge it, and we look up to the Western kind of lifestyle and culture? For example, there was this something I saw on social media, where a teacher asked their students, like a primary school student, to go, while coming to school the next day, they should dress in the kind of profession they want to be, right? And some of them dressed like doctors, nurses, lawyers, and there was this set of twins. They dressed like native doctors. That was how they were dressed. They wear like the way native doctors do dressed. They came like that to school with white chalk on their eyes and a kind of staff. And the teacher was very angry. Was like, "Why are you dressed like this? Look at your mate. Some want to be doctors, politicians, and so forth. But why do you want to be a native doctor?" And personally, I didn't see anything wrong with that, right? This is his culture. This is what he want to be. So this is my question. Why is it that everything that is being associated with our own native culture is being seen as fetish? Why everything that have to do with Christian, Muslim, that has been borrowed like many years ago seems to be very glorious? I mean, honestly speaking, my daddy, I came from a Christian background. All I know is Jesus. But lately, when you ask me about that, I don't give a fuck about that anymore, because I realize it's a tool that they use as a mind control to control us while they make away with a whole lot of resources. And at the end, they ask us to give our hope to God and forgive and forget. I mean, but why is it like that? And how can we change it? How can we change it? Let's see what, just like the Chinese, they preserve their culture, they preserve their medicine. Just like I remember like today, when you go to a Chinese hospital, or let's say a Chinese pharmacist, and they want to prescribe drugs for you, if you're very observant, what they will give to you is the traditional medicine. If you don't ask, especially here in Beijing, they'll bring it. Okay, that's what they give to you. If you ask, I see John Yao, oh, they'll tell you this is traditional medicine. I'll say, no. Can you please give me the Western medicine? So that is them preserving their culture and passing it down to their generation. So this is my question. How can we change this narrative of our own pain being seen as fetish? And how can we bring our own kind of medical system, just like the Chinese, into our pharmacies, into our hospitals? So that is my kind of question. Because, yeah, as an African, whether we like it or not, there are things that cannot work for us, in as much as it's working for the West and working for the Asians and stuff. So that is my little question. Unless I have a lot to ask, because I have this kind of a little awakening and doing my own research to know who I really am and to know what really transpired during the slave trade. And actually, we are really brainwashed. Because even in our political system, when you come to like taking Nigeria as a case study, sorry, I'm taking much of our time. They bring, like in our political system, an average politician swears with what he believes, like the Christian swears with the Bible, and the Arabic, or those who believe in Allah, swears with the Quran. But in as much as they swear and still they still embezzle a lot of money. But I believe if they should swear with our native of what we believe, trust me, they wouldn't embezzle such money and public funds and be so corrupt, because definitely the wrath of what the real natives of the land believe will come upon them. So that's what I just kind of have to say. And please, if you have a little clarification on my questions, I will really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, I have a question.
Can you kindly wait for now? He just asked a question, so he'll be answered, and then when he has gotten his answer, you go on to ask yours. We're doing things sequentially. Baba Maponga, your mic is off, Baba Maponga. Your mic is off.
What I'm sensing with the quality of questions that are being asked are Exodus questions. These are the quality of questions that a student who is in search is asking. And many of your answers that you're looking for are not here with me. They are found on the path which you are sojourning on. I will not. I can't even answer one question that you have intentionally asked, because identity is personal. Affirmation is personal. Wealth is personal. Knowledge is personal. Destiny is personal. And if you wait for someone else to make that available to you, you may have to wait for a very long time until Jesus comes. But for me, the affirmation of you identifying yourself and moving into your destiny, if you remember, replay the introduction that I did on the program, identity, purpose, ultimately resulting in direction. Who are you and what must you do and how far are you from that which you must achieve? You may find that the definition of yourself translates itself not only in terms of identifying your historical background, purpose in the present era, and also projecting you into the future that you must hold. So you may actually end up with 3 to 4 functional or operative definitions of your identity. I wonder if I'm making sense what I'm saying, but what you're asking for, I cannot answer you. These are experiential questions, which you will have to get there, experience, and define yourself. I wonder I'm making sense. I won't even attempt to answer. Those are deep questions which are rooted in self-identity, knowledge, and finding reason for existence and being. And I am me, you are you. Only when you get in a space where you must define yourself, must you be authentic to your history and background.
Honestly, because we're really brainwashed and conquered for a very long time. For sure.
Yeah.
That's what I've been trying to realize. That's what I'm realizing by myself. Because when I see the system here, all that is working for them here is true because they know who they are. They preserve their culture. No matter how the Westerners try to bring their Western pattern of life, they don't give. They only take what they need, select, like the filter it, take the technology, take what were better is good for them, and the rest they throw it to the trash.
When you look into your science laboratory, there is a chemical they call a catalyst.
Yeah.
My most elementary definition of a catalyst, it is a chemical that is involved in a scientific process which can either speed up the process or slow down the process without changing. So the question is, in this society that we're living in, if we become catalysts for Eurocentric progression, Chinese progression, and retrogression of ourselves, or are we consistent in our existence in the midst of a changing chemical composition? Are Africans consistent, or Africans have become part of the transformative and transforming and changing? Because when people are talking about development, they are not talking about Africans being authentic. Development has to do with Africans losing themselves. Our development is measured by how much European we have become. Can you now eat with fork and knife? Oh, la, 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 la. So what? How many degrees do you have? No, I have a bachelor's and master's. La, 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 la. Oh, can you put on a bow tie to a French and etc. Wine testing? La, la. Oh, do you know how to hold your wine glass? You hold it at the bottom, at the center. Oh, no, you got etiquette. You got a crocker. And how do we measure development based on Western culture? As if we don't have a culture of our own. So hence, when I'm saying I don't want to answer questions, I hear they are rooted in a deep cultural identity space. And until we are proud of who we are to influence other cultures are proud enough to influence us.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Can I one more last question? Sorry. Lately, I've been trying to know more about African spirituality. Not about what my daddy taught me, Jesus Christ, and the Muslim stuff. No, I'm trying to discover what really our forefathers, before the white man came, what were they practicing? What were the spirituality like? Not the religion. I know lately everybody see it as fetishness, but I see they are brainwashed. That's what I feel like. So that's my question. Like I've been asking myself daily, like, how is it like? Because all these things nobody taught me. The school never taught me. My daddy never passed it down to me. I never knew my grandfather. So I'm trying to know how is the spirituality like before the white man came? How were we able to? What do we believe before this Jesus of a thing came around? Yeah. And finally, how can we able to harness the African medical system, just like the Chinese, and pass it down to like into our pharmacies and pass it down to generation, because the white see it, an average Nigerian see it as fetish, as juju, as, of course, there are some parts which are fetish. How can we able to harness the good part and pass it down to a generation and even incorporate it into our medical system? Just like last week, not really last, some time ago, I was having this kind of stuff, pain in my body. I've tried all kind of like Chinese stuff. I couldn't get a concrete healing I was looking for. I went on YouTube. I was like, I typed some stuff, and someone thought about something. I was like, okay, I bought them here, some native stuff, and I blended it. I used it, and I was made whole. Honestly, this is my own experience, and that was what I was like. Yeah, how are we being able to live before the white man came in, and how can we harness African spirituality to everyone and not see it as fetish, something like a random person see it, a random African.
I think the transformative word you are using there would be coupled up with a word I call violent takeover. The one who is oppressing you will never donate freedom to you.
Of course.
Because cultural transformation is an economic conversation. It will affect the clothes that you are putting on, which you must buy. It affects the health that you must, and you which must buy. It affects the lifestyle which you must buy. So cultural colonialism translates itself into an economic hub. If I say you cannot preach on my pulpit without a tie, then I'll open up a shop that is selling the ties. So I convert conviction to contracts and business. If we want to transform ourselves, it has to be violent. I will not undermine political will for that transformation. I will not undermine religious will for that transformation. I will not undermine social will to implement that transformation. But if you think that you're going to be waking up one morning and Africans are now accepted, Africans can now do as they please, Africans can now be free to be Africans, Africans can dress like Africans, Africans can eat like Africans, you might have to wait until Jesus comes. That will be in heaven. Those who feel oppressed must violently take what belongs to them and don't apologize. Because the white man has never been polite about his culture, even when he's in Africa.
Oh, man.
Why must we be pussyfooting around this whole conversation as if, sorry for the language, I see Michelle is blushing there, but for what it is worth, why must we be docile and be fragile when addressing colonial systems that undermine our value of being? So black man, black woman, straighten up your back. Don't ask for freedom. Demand it. It will never be donated to you. When you come back to Africa, these things that you now know about medicine and all these things, come back and implement those things. We need to walk up to our hospitals also and be given a choice. Do you want to deliver in an African way or you want to deliver in a European way? Do you want to be treated in an African way or you want to be, do you want Zumbani and Mhlanga or do you want aspirin? Do you want this? For me, will become self-actualization and self-determination for the African when our ways of life are equally respected and compensated as the colonial system is. And that will never be donated because that speaks to the bottom line of some financial company somewhere.
Even before your grandfather was born.
So your culture is your currency. And the culture that you adopt, you are going to support with your funds. I stop there. I thank you.
Someone's mic is on. I think it's Steve. May you kindly mute your mic?
I think it's Ben Larbi. Ben Larbi. Ben Larbi. You're looking cool, man. You must send me those shades. You know, you must send me those shades there. You must send me those cool shades there.
I was muted. I think now you can hear me, but before I can hear me.
I say I like your shades. You must send me. You must send them to Africa here, and I can look cool also.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for the responses, Maponga. And Don, thank you so much for those questions. They are very much important. And I hope whatever it is we're learning in China, we're going to go and implement it back home. And yeah, we move. So we've got two last questions from two people.
Umpo is complaining. She says she has not been recognized.
What's in Umpo?
Who is Umpo? BJ. I have not been
BJ.
noticed. It closes before 4. I speak. Please promise me I want to speak also. I don't know. I'm seeing something on the comment section.
I promise you, Paul, you'll be our last speaker then. So we've got Nash, then Stephen, then we close with Paul. May you kindly ask questions which are kind of summarized in a way, because we need to let Baba Maponga go and take a rest. Yeah, we've been having him for the longest time. And yeah, may we summarize?
Remember, in my world, for every voice, there's an invoice. So I'll send you the invoice.
You can send it over. Teo will pay for us. Thank you. Yes, Teo. So Nash,
right.
Nash, you may
All right,
speak.
I'm here.
Yes.
All right, can you,
And
you guys hear me?
Please make your question short. Because
okay. It's unfortunate that we are actually speaking after so many people have actually abused the but anyway, it's fine, it's okay. Mnara Maponga. Okay, Bishop Marara. All right. My submissions are, I think they are things that we have actually started doing as Africans back home, like in the medical field. I understand that as well, that when you go to the hospital, there is a time that they actually can advise you that this kind of situation that you have right now, you better go and see a Sangoma, because this, we cannot deal with it. So I'm saying we are actually getting there, but anyway, we need to accept it as a people, I think that's the challenge that we have. I think from what I've been listening here, we have identity crisis, right? I think that is the major thing that we actually face with. I've been in China for more than 10 years, and I understand this kind of thing, where I've been in spaces that I don't actually admire who I am, where I come from. Something is imposed on me, and I take that, because for me, it's all about money. This is the things, actually I laugh it with my friends, the things that we do for money. But at the end of the day, we actually, we are the ones who are actually propagating this thing. When they see us, especially the Chinese, when they see us later on, they still believe the same narrative that these guys are, they don't really believe in themselves. They have nothing to offer. So I'm saying we are responsible for this. We are to blame. So it is time that we man up, we become who we are. Just take responsibility. Be yourself. Identify, be glad to be called by your name, no matter how long it is. I'm speaking to those that are in China. We have been here, and sometimes they cannot spell our names, or they cannot actually say our names. And what have we done? We've actually shortened them, or we've actually tried to change them in a certain way, and probably to make it flashy, nice, all those kind of things. Those are the things that are actually propagating this thing in the minds of these people that we're speaking about, that they are oppressing us, they're doing this to us, and all the stuff. We have to be ourselves. We have to identify and say, this is us. And we must have a philosophy as well. We must have a belief system that we actually say, this is who we are. This is what we believe in. it's like I like the way that Ndara Maponga has put it across. If you don't call yourself anything, someone will. If you don't do anything about your identity, what you believe in, someone will. And that has been true for me personally in my journey, in my life in China. They will call you names. They will give you names. They will give you whatever you have to believe in. Now you are this. This is who you are for the coming, probably the period of your contract. But anyway, that's not my story. I just want to say that the time is very short. But anyway, we need, I think these are my humble submission, we need to contextualize like what Maponga has just said. Whatever we have, whatever we know, I think the problem that we've heard with our elders is we have gone to our elders with the mentality of the white man, where I address my father as like, hey, you. And whatever ideas you have, if you address me as like, hey, you Don, hey, you Nash, hey, you what, I'll never accept that. So we have put them in a position where they resist whatever we come with. Why? Because we have failed to contextualize, to understand that as we come back to Africa, there is a way that we address them. There is a way that we should put our story, our whatever ideas that we have for them to understand. I think those that are in the educational industry, you understand this well. If you teach kindergarten, you cannot like be sophisticated. You have to bring it down to their level of understanding. So I'm just saying, whatever we have, new ideas, all those things that we understand now, the level of understanding, come down, level up, make them understand, sit down with your father, address him as, you know, we cannot address our father like standing up. No matter
can I give you an interesting one while you're on that? You have a girl who has a master's degree in communication, arguing with an old woman who did not finish primary school. Who amongst these is a fool? How many have learned about positive? You have 2-3 degrees behind your back, and you are fighting and arguing with your mother-in-law who barely finished primary school. Who is the fool? Who must understand the other?
Yeah, that is, I think it's quite over. That's what I'm talking about now. Like,
I hear you. I'm just adding so that it becomes conversational, you know, so that you the educated people, I'm sorry to say this, you the educated people are the weakest link on the African continent. Because when you come back to Africa, you are not coming back to understand us. You are coming back to impose.
That's right.
What you have now come to understand as your reality. So you find a whole Michelle going back to the village, and when she's visiting her mother, she buys groceries, she buys her ice cream, she buys her cornflakes, she buys her macarons, she buys her cheese, she buys what? And for the time that she's back home there, she takes the whole of Kwabulawayo back to the village and force the village to be there. How about Michelle for a change? You take your $500, you walk up to your village, you give your mother the $500 and say, buy what you want to buy and let me experience you, rather than me forcing you to experience. No, my children don't eat mdoko. They don't eat mdoko. They don't eat this porridge that has mtolwane in it. You don't know our grandmothers constantly, the kitchen was the pharmaceutical yard where every meal was medicine. Every food you are taking was meant, food was not for entertainment. They knew that when they sit in the kitchen, the entire health of the family is in their hands. So while they are walking in the bushes, they pick some herbs there, they pick some shrubs there. When they come back home, they put these things in the food, and etc. and etc. By the time the family is eating, she is actually delivering the health of the family. So you, the educated people, stop imposing yourself. Don't, when you go back to the village, don't carry groceries with you. take the 15,000, 20, 50,000 naira, go give your mother and say, Mommy, cook me some food. Here is the money. And see if you can adapt. I mean, how funny is it that you grew up sleeping on the floor? Now you come back from town, you can't sleep on the same bed, same floor that brought you up. Oh, because my hip, my what, my this, my that. So education has become a passport for the African to escape from themselves into a... Many of us, sorry to say this, it might sound very rude, but many of us are not Africans. We are coconuts, brown on the outside, but the software inside us is white. Snow White and the three dwarfs is white. How must I look so that the world can accept me? Oh, for crying out loud, for once in your life, can you just say, this is me? Accept it or die. Hashtag, every time you try to be like me, you are depriving me the opportunity to experience you. So the white people don't know black people because black people are now white. We can talk to them. We can understand them. We are whites. We're just in a different color. But we can eat fork and knife. We can hold glasses well. We can. Yes, we can. Powder our faces. We can meet up the requirements. But I wonder if a Himba woman in Namibia who never meets the water, but she baths her body with steam and smoke and knows how to steam her yoni to make sure that it is warm enough for the husband and etc. And they have their culture that is alive and well. If a Himba woman would walk up to the world and say, this is me, is the world ready for the Himba woman? And this brings me to another corner where the educated community has become abusive to its own. Because in the midst of development, we're actually extinguishing ourselves. Governments such as Botswana, governments such as Nigeria, Ethiopia, Kenya, as they are invading themselves into the lands that the Maasais, the Fulanis have been living, and development is moving in those, and they're pushing the indigenous people further and further away from themselves. What is self-actualization? What is self-determination? If the Maasai says, I don't want to go to school, I don't want to go to the hospital, I don't want to become white, I want to be myself. If the Hottentot says, I don't want to become civilized, whatever civilization means, I want to live my life the way I've been living. Is our democratized, educated, civilized community, in the midst of our democracy and the human rights, do we also respect the rights of those whom we think are less civilized than ourselves? It therefore brings me to a conclusion. Religion and politics is abusive to African culture because it does not respect it and does not allow the people to become themselves. Why force me to walk in a parliament and say, swear on a Bible, swear on a Quran? And I don't know the Bible. I don't know the Quran. Why are you making me take an oath
Something that you don't
on
know.
something that I neither understand or have knowledge of? But the system demands that I should do that. Is that not cultural colonization? Is that not religious, spiritual colonization? Why must we be watching movies from Hollywood as if we have no stories to tell about ourselves? Is our media not colonized? How do we decolonize that? So again, I want to say it loud and clear that the decolonization project is not a one-window project. All of you who are professionals in your various spaces, the question is, how do you preserve yourself? Salt. Salt. My best example, salt. When it is in food, it is better tasted than sin.
All right, I think Baba Maponga just took my
it
stage. So
changes
yeah,
everything in that food, though you don't see it. No one can eat meat without salt. Actually, what you're eating in meat is salt, not meat. Because meat without salt.
It's not meat.
So how, as Africans, can we become salt? For those of you who are Christians, you are the salt of the earth. Be there. Be present. Though invisible, but your presence must be tasted. Preserve yourself in the midst of it. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Maponga. Wow. Okay, I hope you also answered Nash. We'll take the second from last speaker, that's Stephen. He's from our university. And then after Stephen, we go on to Mpo before she kills some of us. Okay, Stephen, you may take the mic. Stephen is from Nigeria. Yeah.
All right. Good evening, everyone.
Evening, Odo.
My question, I think my perspective is centered on the colonial, the partitioning of Africa by the Western country, that's the Europeans, in the 1883 conference, where Africans were divided into various religious groups and also languages that which also happens here in China. When you see your own African brother or sister, when you walk up to him, maybe, okay, oh, this is black, this is my fellow black or colored, the way we identify it. You say, hello, can I talk to you? Because that's the only language that is, okay, you can actually speak, or maybe French. No, so, oh, I'm French, and I'm not African, or I'm not this. So I think some of us, we neglect to understand the type of colonialism used in us, because the French side of the colonialism was assimilation, that they have to be like French, they have to eat like French, dress like French, dance like French people. So on the western part of Africa, which was colonized by British, majorly the indirect rule of we are using them. So it's basically, if we have to address colonialism, imperialism, and neocolonialism, I think it has a lot to do with the political mindsets of our leaders. And secondly, my other question is, what can we say is the epitome of the insecurity in Africa? Because terrorism has no history with Africa. These were all imported either through extremist religious groups or otherwise. So I need a clear understanding from Bishop Mapunga to clear some doubts about my assertion on this area.
Your mic is muted, sir. Maponga, we can't hear you. Your mic is muted.
I'm saying, as we have already outlined on the top side, that the conversation we're having is a progressive conversation. And it starts with the individual. That how much are you willing? How much power do you give to those that are abusing you in all fraternities? What quality of information are you using as benchmarking your identity? And is the African on the global stage given an opportunity to do that? And in one of my interviews earlier on today, I was actually refuting the concept of Africa Day, because we don't have America Day. We don't have a European Day on the calendar. So we cannot wait for the white men and political systems to tell us you are free to become African one day in a year. What happened to the 364 days? Must we not be ourselves throughout the year? Must we wait for one day in a year where you become yourself? Why can't Africa Day become every day? And Africa Day for me would speak to how we express ourselves in all fraternities of expression, that we live. And that's why that's maybe it was at high level when I said African culture cannot be taught, but rather experienced. It must become part of our being. Our constant expression must be founded on clear identity of who we are. And the African child must not apologize for being themselves. Yes, the biggest question that keeps on coming in most of the comments that I've been hearing so far and questions I'm hearing, they're all tiptoeing around: if I become African, will I be acceptable? If I become African, will I be accommodated? If I become Africans, is it still okay? If I become African, will I still survive? If I become African, will my disease be healed? If I become African, will I still get a job? Will I still get a career? If I become African, what will the world say? For once, ask yourself, if you become African, is there anything wrong? They have become Europeans. They have stayed as Europeans. And by the way, it's sad that only Africans are battling with identity.
No,
all other cultures don't have a problem with who they are. The Chinese don't have a problem being Chinese. The white man does not have a problem being a white man. It's only the African who must be asking, so what must I be? How must I be? When must I be? Is this acceptable? Is this to who, for crying out loud? For the why. For the why. Sorry for the language. Hey, why are you laughing? Are you laughing with me or laughing at me, Toya? For the why. For the why.
No, it's really, really important. Like, some things are detailed up, because even in your answers, I still have some objections, because what you mentioned are only psychological to people who does not understand the scenario. Then that brings us to the issue of Islamic terrorism in Africa. Those people who does not know any structural basic of education, but Islamic education, which is important. And this terrorism have been raging in Somalia, in northern Nigeria by Boko Haram. So when we talk about the psychological, or me being an African, I am 100% an African. So I'm talking about our brothers who are undereducated, brainwashed, that the only thing they know is Islamic religion, and that is their guiding principle of life, constitutionally or otherwise. So when you make mention of not being an African on every day, I think that it still refers to people who are still looking at themselves as a black man or something, because all those psychological effects does not have any meaning to me. But I'm talking about the majority of Africans who are not even able to be maybe in such discussion like this. So that should be our utmost concentration. I don't know if you get my point.
And hence the developmental project is personal project. is a family project, is a community project, it is a national project. Ultimately, it becomes a continental project that we begin to infuse the values, the identity of ourselves amongst ourselves. And I don't know, it's you or the previous guy who was saying, when I'm walking in town and I see another black person, do you feel you can walk up to that person and have an Ubuntu conversation? Hello, I am from Ghana, I am from Somalia, my name is. And if you can have a conversation, and you pardon me, young people, when I pass away and I die one day, you will remember me. Religion, politics, and sports have divided us. And we want to belong. That's a problem. We want to belong to a certain cluster of faith, of politics. We want to be identified with brands. I'm a Gucci man. I'm a this, I don't put on this, I put on this, and I support this, and I go there, I worship this, and I worship this. And we think that by collecting all these things, these begin to give us identity. And this will be complicated, but take your time to unpack it for yourselves. The danger of religion, particularly Christianity and Islam, which are the biggest two big devils that Africa has to deal with. You will discover after political, economic, all the liberations that you'll face, the last demon that you'll find standing at the door is the spiritual liberation. The danger of religion is that it has placed itself in identity. I am a child of God. Jesus is my personal savior. Inshallah. Islam, Allah is this to me. And you find that this identity, which was a political tool of taking over the African culture, has become the center through which the African child is defining himself. Many people on my social space, they are troubled. Ask me why. So who are you? What are you? Do you still believe in this? Do you still believe in that? Man, I don't need to believe in God for him to be alive. I don't need to believe in Jesus for him to be alive. I don't need to believe in Fokor.
That is an important explanation, because few weeks ago or months, a Christian student who opted for some of his students to stop talking about religion in the group was gruesomely murdered. She was killed, and the government has done nothing about it. That is the problem I'm talking about, not even about the color perception of African man, but the psychological damage that majority of some part of African nations has adopted. Someone was killed and nothing was done.
How do you kill each other for religion?
For
how do you kill that poor girl? How do you kill another human being for a belief system?
For someone who died 2,000 years ago, and people still fight for them, instead of fighting for their right, they fight for God who is dead, but they can't presently fight for their own right as a living being. So can you see the kind of psychological damage I'm talking about? I'm not talking about the color or anything, because it has no representation of who I am. But I'm talking about those who their psychological way of thinking have been compromised.
I can't say it better than that. I can't say, you've said everything. For the why. Why would you kill each other for theology, for ideology? Hence I say, if we want to be human, remove politics, remove religion, remove sports from conversation. you may just discover you're talking to a fellow human being. But as long as we define each other from religion and political inclinations and entertainment spaces included, there is brands also, then you begin to undermine each other based on a brand that is external to ourselves as African. I wish for once in our lives we could begin to identify each other as brothers and sisters. Umfowethu, the one who can die with me. Umfazi, umfa ekwazi, the one who will die in another man's house, building the nation in that house. Mudzi, mai. The root of every child is your mother. And how do you take money from your own salary and give to a pastor? And you can't look after your own mother. This is witchcraft at the highest level of mental contamination. Yes, this issue is psychological. And I pardon you and I forgive you as young people. This process is a 400-year project. 400 years later, here we are talking about who are we. But I'm glad the spirits of our ancestors has risen. There's a new awakening. There's a new breeze. If you're smart enough, just go on any social media space, and if you can read the desire for African children to identify themselves, know themselves, become themselves, that population is growing. And I think it's from that perspective that this conference and this conversation emanates from. That while we are in lands afar, doing whatever we are doing, wherever we are, do we remember who we are? And how can we collect information from those countries and come back to our own countries and implement the changes that will transform our resources into wealth so that our communities where we come from could benefit from the knowledge that we have. And if you don't see yourself back in your village with your knowledge, then you are as equally useless where you are than where you're coming from. We send you to school as young boys and girls, not to come back and make us Chinese, but to come back and transform the society. Come back with technologies. Even if you bring no cent with you, don't be embarrassed. Come back with the technology and make impact in your own communities. To me, that is growth. Thank you, Steve-O. That was quite interesting. Thank you very much. I will drink to that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Steve.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Maponga, for the responses as well and contributions. So now we'll take our last speaker. Mpo, are you still around?
I'm still around, yes. I'm still around. I'm not a sheep, by the way, as you can see.
Yes.
How? I thought a beautiful young lady with blush on her cheeks would be popping up, and I see a handsome young man. Okay, but it's equally fine. I think the name fits you well. You still have some beauty features around you. Yeah, that's fine. I can live with that.
I'm glad the disappointment isn't that great.
Yeah.
Right. Well, Muruti Maponga. I want to end with exactly this tied or with exactly what you just spoke with my brother right now, because my question is on the idea of African identity and Christianity, particularly because Christianity in particular because I'm a Christian. And I've also come.
And be careful. Be careful when you're talking to me and you say, I am a Christian. You could have been a Muslim. You could have been, you just say, I was colonized to become Christian. Then it will sit nicely with me. But anyway, it's fine. Sorry for interjecting.
No problem, no problem. So I want to say I'm a Christian, and I want to identify myself as an African Christian. Two terms which at times for some people may seem to be mutually exclusive or don't belong in the same space, like oil and water. And I find that to be, I wonder if it is necessary for us to have that approach, because as part of the project of reclaiming our identity as Africans, because it looks like there's a yearning, as you were talking, that look at this special social media space, there's a wave, there's like an awakening that is happening. So as part of our project to reclaim our African identity, is it necessary? How is it going to help us to achieve that by denying Christianity or the Bible or Jesus? Because I believe where I'm sitting, I believe there is space for African Christianity. And the reason I believe that is because one of the cardinal values of African identity or African religion and philosophy is Ubuntu. And loosely translated, I think it means, I don't claim to understand it deeply, but loosely translated, I think it means humanity. And we are all doing our best to be in touch with our humanity, harnessing the African oral tradition and the wisdom that has been passed down from generation to generation to become the best version of ourselves. And if it is humanity that we are all, from an African perspective, not from a Western perspective, not from a Chinese perspective, if it is our African humanity that we are all trying to express, therefore it makes sense to look to God in the process of doing that, to seek guidance from God in the process of doing that. And for me, there isn't a better place to seek God's guidance from his written word, which is the Bible. And when you read the Bible, it talks about Jesus as God incarnate in human form. That is him trying to come to our level, because there's no way we can come to his. So I find the choice to having to be made to choose between African identity or Christianity very unnecessary in our project to reclaim and get in touch with our African roots and identity and values, whatever it is. I don't claim to understand it, but whatever, since I'm still on a journey myself. But I find it very unnecessary to having to throw away the Bible and to throw away Jesus as he is expressed in God's written word, which is the Bible. So my question, making it a question, is it necessary in the process of reclaiming or getting in touch with our African roots to throw away the Bible and Jesus, who is claimed by the Bible as God in human form? Yes.
All right. Okay. I think we need a full conference on your question. A very, very important question. Because I think it is a progressive question into searching both the historicity of Christianity, historicity of the Bible, historicity of Jesus. Now, when you talk to me as a theologian and an academician, I could answer you at quite a number of levels. And what if I tell you that Jesus only appeared 800 years ago, 1,200 years later after he was born and he died? Because the letter J was not even appearing on the alphabet until 800 years ago. All along, it was a Y. So is the Christian community ready to converse on Jesus being a creation of the Catholic Church and Yahuwah, Yeshua, being the Messiah of the biblical text, how come you'd have disciples, all of them that have European names? James, John, Peter, and etc. And this is supposed to be in Jerusalem, which is a Hebraic setting. So are we ignoring the System Leben, which is the environment in which the text is written, to adapt and adopt the culture of translation, which is the British environment? The accumulation of tradition and culture, which is pro-slavery. Is this book being written for the masters or for the slaves? And if this text was supposed to be written from Africa to Europe, who are the slaves and who are the masters? And when you begin to get into those theological corners and the extrapolation, translation and transliteration, and someone will say translate, it means transport. By the time it reaches you, it's late. Translate, you will get it, but it's going to come there in a delayed form. So when you look at the whole biblical translation, if we say the biblical text is an African text, automatically that gives context to interpretation, to cultural expression. Issues such as marriages, issues such as brothers marrying their brothers' wives after the passing away of a brother, issues such as polygamy, issues such as using herbs, issues such as, you are not ready as Christians to even accept the Bible itself. Because when you begin to read it in its context, it will tell you that this is an African text. But in the way in which we are now preaching it, we are reading it from the European glasses. So at the end of the day, when you say, I believe in the Bible, I doubt it. Because if you believe in the Bible, then how come your late brother's wife is not in your bed? And the New Testament what? When the children of Joseph are listed as 6 children, and Jesus being the 7th. So did Mary have 6 children, or Mary was in a polygamous relationship with Joseph? You are not ready as Christians to discuss the Bible, because the interpretation and the lenses through which you have been told to read the Bible are colonial lenses. So we are not disputing. We are not throwing away Jesus, as it were. But this blue-eyed boy that the European took from Africa into Europe and then sent him back to us, the homosexual boyfriend of Michelangelo, who has now become the representation of Jesus, and telling me in my mature age of research and reading to say, accept that as Jesus. The iconography is wrong. The morality is wrong. The history is wrong. Etymology is wrong. So I think maybe for saying the least, I hope you can hear me. We are not refuting the veracity, authenticity of the biblical text, but the interpretation, translation, and transliteration, both of text and culture, of Christian dictum, dogmatics, and theology, is not truthful to its environment from which it was written. I'm sorry if I'm sounding academic, but you're pushing me into that space, and this is my line of specialty. And I did theology extensively, so I could speak as an authority in that line. So when you come around and say I'm a Christian, and I was saying, are you an Old Testament Christian or a New Testament Christian, an Ethiopian Christian, a Jewish Christian, or a European Christian, or an African Christian, you begin to understand that when you beat a drum, Jesus runs through the window and runs away from the church. When you play an organ, then he comes back and people begin to speak in tongues. And I ask you, if God and Jesus are not familiar with African tradition and music, then God never created the Africans. Then I say such statements, and people think that they have heard me. And you are not hearing the context from which I'm saying it, that if God has a problem with the African, then he never created them in the first place. How come the culture of the white man of a jacket and tie and an organ remains the supreme benchmark of religious expression, and the African expression remains demonized, when in fact the culture of the African is as authentic as the Bible itself. Read the book of Numbers. In the book of Deuteronomy, when a man has died outside the city and no one knows who has killed the man, take a measuring stick, measure to the closest city to the dead man. Let all the men of that village come to the place where this dead man has been found. Bring a heifer here, a cow or an ox. Break its neck. Let the men of the village wash their hands on top of that heifer and say, I am not involved in the death of this man. And when you have washed your hands and etc. and killed the thing, please go back home. I, the Lord myself, will find the man who has killed this man. Is that not a ritual? A whole chapter expressing how Jesus dies, Mary, oh, this one will confuse you. Please don't lose your faith. Mary, the prostitute, and Mary, the mother of Jesus. Mary, the mother of Jesus, and Mary, the prostitute, they go to anoint his body and bury him in the grave. So Mary, the prostitute, did she close her eyes while they were covering the body of a naked Jesus? And on Sunday morning, they were coming to the grave to anoint his body with oil and incense and frankincense and, hello, culture? You're talking New Testament culture? Are you ready to anoint a dead man's body with oil and incense? Because that's what happened to Jesus. You will discover you are not ready as Christians. So please, for Christian questions, don't include me. Don't involve me. Because the conversations in those spaces will mess up your entire software. You will never be the same again. So growth is progressive. You are where you are. When information comes, you move to the next level, to the next level, to the next level. But from where you are right now, build me a sanctuary. Then I can dwell amongst you. Have a way in which the divine can have access into the physical human being space. And the sanctuary in the Bible is umsamo in the African and Zulu culture. Literally, lights left, this bread right, and Itala, and you look into your sanctuary and look at umsamo in the African space, you'll be shocked to find the striking similarities. The whole issue of killing goats and chickens and etc. That's biblical. How can you drink the blood of Jesus and eat his flesh as a Christian, and you find me drinking a blood of a chicken and I'm a demon and you're a Christian? Who is worse off? The one drinking the blood of a human being or the one drinking the blood of a chicken? Is Christianity based on human sacrifice? Because Jesus died and he saved us. Are we saying that Christianity is actually a human sacrifice religion? Those are conversations way out. God is the Father, is a man. The Son is a man. The Holy Spirit is a man. Are we saying that heaven is a homosexual space where it's only occupied by men? Why is God afraid of women? And how does God create a family as a source of life on earth and he does not have a family in the heavenly spaces? So I don't want to discuss religion, that tempo. You are not ready. Let me say it for the fourth time. You are not ready. I will confuse and mess up. But if you want to be authentic, the more African you are, the more truthful. I would rather deal with an African person on Ubuntu than deal with a Christian who is arrogant and rude. Because the basis of Christianity must be Ubuntu. Ubuntu, humankind, mankind, meaning to say you must be kind to humans. You must be kind to manhood. You must be kind. Mankind, humankind. In other words, it is your expression of kindness to each other. By this one commandment you will know, when you love one another. Therefore, that love is the kindness I'm talking about. And if Christianity begins to segregate, marginalize, if Islam begins to segregate, marginalize, and kill each other in the name of religion, that is not humankind. That is not mankind. It has become a cult.
I don't mean to interrupt the Fundiswam. Here's my take from what you just said, that the issue with religion is not that there is something wrong with religion itself, but the interpreters, the followers. There is nothing wrong with Christianity as a worldview. but the Christians themselves are part of the problem, which conflate and make even finding the truth very difficult. That's what I'm getting. But then I am still saying,
you are right. You are right on that. You are right on that. The window that I want you to see it from is that by the time Christianity arrives to you, it is no longer arriving in its purest form. It is already arriving dressed in the gloves of the colonial system, which contaminates even the purity of the substance itself. That we must. I could be a Christian any day if I could find one Christian, but I can't find one.
So then, Mfundis, this is the last comment from me. I'm saying Mfundis not in the Christian sense, but as a teacher, which is what we are doing right
now. You know.
No, so then what option are we left with? Because we cannot deny that for years, religion has been a very dominant influence in how people view the world and how they view God. There is a
Christianity and religion has been used for the longest of time as a kindergarten school for colonialism. Sorry to say that.
I don't dispute that at all. Yes.
So at the end of the day, when you are conforming as a Christian, are you being truthful to yourself, or you've been prepared to work in the system?
I think after 5 years of theology myself, I think I will take you up on that offer of a conference and a discussion on this issue, because I understand that these are not matters that can just be said in a paragraph or in a discussion and like in this platform. But I do, however, feel like then there is some kind of space for creative tension that can exist between our African identity and Christianity if properly done.
And you can achieve that, Mpo, when you remove the white fingers and white hands from interpretation. Because right now, the dogmatics and the cardinal belief systems, the doctrinal issues, there's no African participation in the formulation of that dogma. It remains purely as white privilege. So talk music. What is acceptable music? You won't find a black person contributing to that. Talk about marriage. What is acceptable to be in a marriage? You won't find an African contributing to that, because Africans are now doing 3 weddings. First wedding, you are going to pay the cows at the family. Second wedding, you are at the magistrate court trying to get it legalized. Third wedding, the pastor is waiting for you at the church. So look at the bill, only the bill. Many people are living in prostitutions in the Hillbrows and in Sandton because they don't have neither the money just to go through the basic process. So has religion actually become an impediment? Has religion become actually a problem that once you begin to think of committing to a woman and you look at the bill that is looking at you, i-Aventura ngale is costing 250,000. Ibhendi ifuna 60,000. Umfundisi ufuna 10,000. Ukudla kufuna what? Impahla zifuna what? You look at children are starting marriages in debt. If they last for 4 years in those marriages, they are lucky. On their way into a new home, they're on their way to the courts to divorce. So again, I want to agree with you that we can have this conversation as long as the white man is not part of our narrative, who will be telling us what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. You cannot even talk about issues such as Jacob having 4 wives, Abraham having 3 wives, David having 8, Solomon having 1,000. Those conversations are way beyond the conversation of the Christian community right now, because we're strictly looking at our conversation from a European window. And once we throw away the white man, me and you again, then I'll tell you that Jesus actually grew up in Egypt for 12 years. We gave the Messiah to the world after we had trained him as Africans. So when you hear his parables in the New Testament. You can go and read them in the Kemetic Wars in Egypt, and you'll find men walking on water, because that means impossible. You find a man fishing, and you find a man, Virgin Mary, all those births. Those stories are available 5,000 years earlier, before Jesus is born. In that space of a progressive conversation, we can go. I'm
right.
game.
Yes. So let's not throw the baby with the bathwater, because Christianity is tainted with colonialism, with whatever it is, whiteism, or whatever you call it. Let's not throw away the baby with the bathwater. God is God, and He's the creator of all human beings, including African, Chinese, and
When you
European.
get of age,
yes,
when you get of age, you will stop using the word God, because God means nothing. God simply says you are accepting there's something supernatural. Even He says don't worship other gods. So even God acknowledges that there are other gods. So give me His name, and then I know that you know what you're talking about. But to say I believe in God actually does not mean anything, because there are many of them out there. So
how can I
you need
give
to
you a
identify
name,
Him.
Fundis? How can I give you a name, Fundis, when God Himself didn't give His name to Moses when He asked him His name? So
So
I get what you're trying to say.
I am who I am. Define Him. Yeah. But I follow what I'm saying. To say I believe in God, a Hindu can also say I believe in God. A Muslim also says I believe in God. A Christian also says I believe in God. But believing in God without an identity of a God becomes pantheism, because there's a plurality of divinity within the godly space. So tell me which one of the gods you believe in. Give me His name.
To be continued, Moruti. Thank you very much.
Oh, nice talking to you, Mpo. Nyabonga mfundisi wami, nyabonga mfundisi wami. Iron sharpens iron. It's never a boring moment in my life. I really appreciate you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, Munkosikazi lo.
Yeah,
Why are you switching off the phone when we are looking at your beautiful wife? You kind of fit. You want to eat alone, yeah? Sakubona mama.
He's gone. Okay, thank you so much, Paul, for the interesting, contributions that you've made. And again, once more, thank you so much, Maponga, for the responses, and also intriguing, or rather activating the urge to have another discussion with you, which is based on Christianity and the Africanness. Yeah. So, Ingazi, we are coming to the end of our webinar now. We took way longer than we were supposed to do so. But then, in closing, Maponga, do you have any last words for the African youth who are in China, or the African youth in general who are on this webinar? Any last words for us?
I give you permission, all of you in China, I give you permission to steal IP, steal information, learn the ways of the Chinese, come back home, bring the technologies, and let us transform Africa. Let's transform Africa. If you can find the technology of making clothes, the weaving machines, on how to, all these minerals we are shipping into China, they are using them for making things. So while you are there, please, 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 research, learn, and know. And particularly if you are from Zimbabwe, Michelle can give you my number. I am involved here already in the projects of youth development, technological development, and seeing how we can also create an innovation hub for Africans. So I wish you in China can come up with a WhatsApp group or something. Put me in the group also. When I see opportunities available here, I'll drop them there. Right now, there's one that is pending where we want to create a Zimbook platform like Facebook, where we can actually have our own social media space where we can put education, training, development, and other things like you have in China there, We Talk, whatever platform. So while you're there,
Yes,
please
sir.
learn as much as you can, grab as much as you can. When you come back here, before you come back here, start talking to us. We will open up doors for you in the government spaces, in the business spaces, so that I want all of you to retire back in Africa. But while you are there, please, please, I beg you, bring something back home. Bring something back home. Even with a bag, don't be scared. Come back when you have knowledge. Remember, a man with one eye is a king amongst the blind. I thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank you so
Maponga.
much.
Thank you so much. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of our webinar.
much. Thank you so much.
So he did mention that we should create a WhatsApp group. So I'll make sure that I do so in the next day or two. So for those who are interested in being part of it, kindly add me on WeChat at Mimi Reads, or yeah, you can look for the flyer for this whole webinar, and there's my QR code there. You can add me.
Maybe share your number, then they can drop you their interests if that is okay with you. Maybe you can just on your chat there share your number. Those who want to the conversation continues, we can firstly download this link and then share it on the page, and we can converse as we're going forward. I thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Baba Maponga. I'm sharing my number right now. 15697845350. You can WhatsApp me on this number and do mention that you want to be added to the WhatsApp group. Or you can just add me at Mimi Reads on Twitter or on other social media platforms. So we'll be having another webinar, which is, okay, it's more like a discussion. It's on the 4th of June. And the topic of discussion is, what can Africans learn from China? It's an open-ended question. We can talk about education, the economics, the politics, any aspect that you'd like to discuss. And so far, we've prepared around 10 Africans who are vocal, Pan-Africans mainly, from at least 6 different countries. So do look out for the flyer. I'll post it on my WeChat and other social media platforms. So with that being said, thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. We did have a great Africa Day, and I'm sure you did enjoy the webinar and you learned a lot. Good night to those who are in Africa. Good morning to those who are in China. So goodbye, ladies and gents. May we all have a good night.
It's evening also here. You guys have been here from 2 in the afternoon. It's 6 in the evening now. It's going dark now. So.
Wow, thank you so much, Mama Maponga, for giving us your time. We'll always appreciate this. And I'll upload this whole webinar on my YouTube channel. Just look for my name, Michelle Mhlanga. Yeah, you'll find the channel. Just subscribe, and I'll post all the videos and everything there. So thank you so much. Good night. Nilale kahle, Baba Maponga. So khuluma la ngesinye isikhathi.
Bye bye, siyabonga.
Siyabonga.